So can I just clarify, the weather conditions in Denbydale had no bearing on that announcement? Yeah, well. Okay, so I've got one announcement today, and the legal officer has also an announcement, so can you just bear with us? On your chairs, you should have received notification of a communication. Is everybody looking blank at me? No? Yeah? You should have received notification of a communication that went out earlier this week. I just want to remind you of the changes to Cabinet responsibilities that were made on Monday as a result of Councillor Sheard being unwell. I'm sure we all send our speedy recovery wishes to Councillor Sheard. In effect, what will happen is Councillor Viv Kendrick will take over the children's portfolio, Councillor Cathy Scott will pick up the adults portfolio, and Councillor Graham Turner will pick up a focus on health and safety.
Thank you. Are there any...
Okay. Members, can I just remind you that for agenda item 9, that if any of you at the meeting are 2 months or more in arrears with your council tax, that in those circumstances you should declare that at the meeting as soon as practicable, please, after the start of the meeting. So if you are, please make that disclosure now. It will stop. You're not able to vote if that's the case, although you can take place in discussion about those issues. So if anybody has a disclosure to make, please make it now. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Apologies for absence. Councillor Sokol.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy New Year to you. Apology from Councillor Davis here on sick note. Yeah, I'm sure. So, Councillor Mahmood Akhtar, he is again sick note. Councillor Mariel O'Neill, same, and Councillor Aaron Hill, who is, everybody knows, maternity leave, yeah?
Thank
I
you
think
very
I've been told she can attend the meeting if she can, yeah? Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Patrick. Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We've received apologies from Councillor Palfreman, Councillor Donald Firth, Councillor John Taylor and Councillor Liz Smage.
Thank you, Councillor Hall.
That's my impression of Councillor Lawson now, sorry. Councillor Lawson is ill, unfortunately. He's got Australian flu. And Councillor Kath Pinnock is unable to be with us.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Councillor Karen. Councillor Allen. You're all present. Thank you very much. Right. I move that the minutes of the meeting of Council 17 to be approved as a correct record. Is that seconded?
Mayor. Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Right, sorry. Apologies, Council. Approval of the minutes is subject to the deletion of Councillor Gemma Wilson from the list of members present at the meeting.
Please vote with a show of hands. Thank you. Members who have any interests should disclose their interests now. Are there any interests to declare? Councillor Turner.
I have an interest in item 13 as my husband and daughter both work in the public sector.
Thank you. Other interests? Councillor Scott.
Yes, I've got an interest in 11 and 14. My husband works for NHS England, and I have a family.
Councillor Smith.
Sorry, thank you, Madam Mayor. Likewise, in item 13, I'm an NHS employee. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Declaration of interest on item 11 as my daughter is employed by COW, and item 13 as I am employed by the NHS.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 11, as I'm a KNH board member, but I have a dispensation, and item 13, my wife and sister are both teachers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 11, my mum lives in a KNH property, and item 13, my wife and my son work for the NHS. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Pandor. Councillor O'Donovan.
Item 30, Madam Mayor, my partner works for the NHS.
Councillor D. Hall.
Item 13, Madam Mayor, I'm still employed by a state school, but by the time we get to discuss this matter, I'll probably be retired.
Councillor Lapp.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 13, my wife's employed by Bradford Council and my daughter's employed by Sheffield NHS Trust, Children's Trust.
Item 13, our family working in the public sector.
Councillor Pinnock.
Madam Mayor, item 13, my husband works for the public sector.
Thank you very much. See you there.
My son's a council tenant, that's 11, and my daughter's a teacher, 13.
Councillor Calvert.
Thank you. My daughter's a tenant of the council at KNH.
Calvert. Right.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I happen to be a council tenant.
Thank you, Donald. Any members who have declared an interest to complete their forms and submit them to the clerk by the end of this meeting. Right. Petitions from members of the council. Are there any petitions? No. Item 6. To receive deputations or petitions from members of the public. There were 2 deputations, but one has been withdrawn, so there is only one. So can I now please invite Kath Middleton to give her deputation? Welcome, Kath, to the council. You have 5 minutes. Your light will flash after 4.5, and I shall switch you off immediately after 5. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm attending here today to hand in a petition for a bypass for Flockton. A meeting is going to be held this Friday, the 19th of January, in the church. With around 150 new houses currently being built and at least a further 30 more in the pipeline, there will be at least a further 350 cars entering Barnsley Road on a daily basis. The road is already gridlocked in peak times. Minor accidents happen weekly. The purpose of the give-way chicane is to slow traffic down, but this has the adverse effect as cars coming from Grangemore speed up to beat the oncoming traffic, causing many accidents. HGVs travelling from Grangemore illegally are constant, with no policing of this. We now have to contend with the building site lorries trailing mud from one end of the village to the other. The road sweeper just uses its brushes to spread it out rather than washing it down. We want to prevent any deaths on Barnsley Road. Please give this request your utmost attention, as it is no longer a want, it is a need for the villagers of Flockton. The petition online was signed by 318 people and door-to-door was 453. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you for that. Councillor McBride to respond.
Thank you for your concern. It's been a concern of this council for, in my memory, 50 years when I first came to Kirklees. So Huddersfield, it was the main item of agenda, a bypass for Flockton. That's been considered over the years. Now it really is a matter for the West Yorkshire County Council and their priorities. It is currently not in the West Yorkshire Combined Authorities programme, £1 billion fund, so we'd have to seek entry to that, which would be very much in the future. But nonetheless, we will reflect that and pass that information on to the Combined Authority. Thank you.
Thank you for attending the meeting of the Council and presenting your petition. Yes? Who's this? Oh, just supporting Cap. Well, the petition's being done now, so I don't think anybody else can speak. Oh, no. Yeah? Done? Have the 2 minutes left? Okay, you've 2 minutes.
I know it's been a big concern for a long number of years, but when West Yorkshire County Council closed, they gave Kirklees £10,000 to go towards a Flockton bypass. Can you remember that, Peter? No, I know that, but I'm just saying, that money was there at the time. What my biggest concern is, at the present moment, we've got cars parking on the pavements. They're going to narrow the road, make the pavements bigger, unless Kirklees make the pavement with bollards on it. We're going to be filled up with cars on it all the time. We've only got one pavement all the way through the village. That's all we've got. That isn't fit for time of motion. Anybody walking around for their way of pram haven't a cat and hex chance of getting through. The narrowest part of the village is where Bond Farm is. That the cars come up to the Sun Inn, got to come over the white line to get round the corner. When they start digging down there, New Hall Farm, then we're going to have fun. So really, we do need something doing. I know it's a long time, and this, that, and the next thing. This is the last thing I'll say. If you remember Stephen Kay, he says to me, Jimmy, we'll never see a bypass in our time. He died a good number of years ago. I've not that much longer to go with him, and I'll join him, and it'll still be the very same thing. But we've still got to keep fighting and see if we can get something done about it. Yes, last night was beautiful. It was gridlocked all the way through the village. It was tailback right to Waterloo from the roundabout at Breton. So that's what happened last night. So really, would you give it a consideration and see if anything could be done about it? Because the road's that narrow, we can't do very much about it. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
Thank you both for attending the meeting of the Council and presenting your petition.
You're welcome.
Item 7. Are there any questions by members of the public?
Good evening.
Good evening, Lady Mayor and councillors. My name is Caroline Goodwill. I'm a member of the campaign to save Wycliffe Mount Founders Building. I think you've heard of it. And some of you might recall, on the 13th of September, there was a full council meeting, and my colleague Paul Graves stood up and gave a deputation because we got nearly 4,000 signatures to save that building. Right, my question is, at that full council meeting, the leader of the council, two of our councillors, sadly one's got Australian flu, I understand, and the CEO said they would broker a deal with a developer that we had got who wished to buy that building and make it into residential use but preserve the wonderful facade, and he offered at least £500,000. Nothing happened. Included in that £500,000 or more is at least 100,000 that we will now need to compensate the demolition company, who, if you've got the Spenborough Guardian this week,
you have a question.
You will see has already started demolishing the 1960s building.
What is your question, please?
My question is, when those people I have mentioned said they would broker a deal, they did not do that. And I want to add, Lady Mayor, you are depriving the coffers of Kirklees of a lot of money, because that building, they wanted to buy for £500,000. Without the building, the land is only worth a quarter of that. So that's my first question. And I would add, I'd like to add that Tracy, I'm sorry, madam. Go on. Right.
Thank you for coming along this afternoon or evening. In advance of this question, I re-watched the council meeting. I have a raft of emails which I've sat and read this afternoon. What the chief exec and the leader said, they would try and broker a deal. If that deal needed the land, we would offer the land to do that deal. Since then, an awful lot of work has been done by senior officers with the developers, with the Langs and the AFSA, and no deal has been able to become without, let me finish please, without the council underwriting and providing a section 151 letter to the demolition company to guarantee and underwrite that. This authority quite clearly at that meeting said we would not issue a section 151 letter. We would try and broker a deal. A lot of work has been done, but a deal has been unable to be reached. So unfortunately, we're back where we were.
Do you have a second? Do you have a second question?
I will. Just let me answer this question, please, if you don't mind, madam. Right. This 151, with Tracy Brabin, who you know is our MP, we have discussed it with her, and
Miss
she
Goodwill,
suggested
will you ask
we
the
put
question? Will you
£100,000 in a holding account to compensate the demolition company, which would meet your 151 requirement. And also, I must add that our dearly beloved and sadly missed Joe Cox was a member of our civic society.
What is your question?
Also hoped to.
Could I ask what is your question?
I have said we would like the brokering of the deal to continue, and the 151 needs to be.
This is not a question. Will you ask the question?
And the question is, can we continue to broker a deal, madam?
Right, can I ask?
Again, we tried all avenues. Nobody wants to do a deal. The only deal is if we get. We're not turning down anything. We have to issue a 151 letter to the EFSA before they'll do anything. It's quite clear. I've got emails if you want. You've probably seen them that quite clearly state the EFSA, we are not in the position financially or morally to issue blank cheques to the EFSA and the developers. It's just not going to happen. We cannot issue blank cheques, and we would be a blank cheque. It's unfair to the residents, the rest of the residents of Kirklees. Clearly, we said we would try and broker a deal. And I categorically state a lot of work, I've read all these, a lot of work has gone into trying to broker a deal, and a deal cannot be done. There is no developer prepared to go down that route. We've tried, we spoke...
Excuse me, please listen to what Councillor Turner has to say.
Don't forget, and it was mentioned last time we discussed this, back in September, that this has been going on for 4 years. In fact, longer, 2013, I think, when it was reached that. So you've had since 2013, and the 11th hour, you come with a £500,000 that we don't know where it's coming from. It's too late. We offered this back in September. We're back in January now.
We struggled to work with Councillor.
Sorry, the officers work really, really hard.
This is not a debate.
Yes, you're right.
So,
My supplementary question is why? Sorry, my supplementary question is why? Thank you. Yes, I am passionate about this. Supplementary question is, Madam, why is this building not listed? Some of you will have heard as Nicholas Pevsner. He was the very famous architectural historian, and anything that went in his English architecture was the gold standard of architectural excellence. Surprisingly enough, the new edition has come out of West Yorkshire and South Yorkshire.
What is your
Our
supplementary
school is in. Why was it not listed? Our school is actually in the Pevsner Guide. Also,
again, having watched the September meeting, the reason it wasn't listed, it was applied to be listed. The listing authority, whoever they are, decided not to list it. This council made no representation, and this was pointed out quite clearly back in September that the authority didn't want to list it. So that's the book stops with them, not us. We made no input into that decision.
you have one more question, Miss Goodwill.
This is still why was it not listed? From the information, employees sent an email which said there is a lack of architectural quality.
That question... Welcome back. Ask who your question is directed at.
It's just at the council in general regarding the funding given by Chris Grayling for highways, for improvement for A roads and for bypasses. The 100 million. Has the 100 million been requested from the government for improvement to A roads and for bypasses? And if so, can Flockton be considered for? There was actually a plan in 1933 which was short, cheap. I was there at the time. It would have been for mining, but it was short, it was cheap, it was just one lane either way, just going on to Barnsley Road. And if those plans are archived and if they can be found, maybe we could look at that.
Could I ask Councillor McBride to reply?
To be honest with you, I know of no such application. The county authority, West Yorkshire Combined Authority, its funding for all highways has been reduced by 50%. So we've literally been the amount of money available is halved, and to get the money that you would require a separate bid to a fund that's already underfunded. So the likelihood isn't great. I mean, I'll share your feeling. Ideally, if we could have that, yes, we would want it. But the reality.
Could you let Councillor McBride answer first?
Well, Chris Grayling presents things in particular ways. So you see 100 million in one form and another, and now you see it, now you don't. All I know is the total funding across West Yorkshire has been quite literally halved. Therefore, the realities are in terms of prioritisation, and it is not a primary priority of the West Yorkshire Combined Authority. I'm afraid that's the reality of the situation.
Do you have a supplementary?
Just to say, have anything been applied for from the government with Chris Grayling announcing to announce this 100 million for council?
Councillor McBride to answer.
100 million. I don't know if any officer is aware of 100 million. It may have been some statement he's put out. The Combined Authority is not aware of any 100 million that might be available. Yeah, yeah.
To receive for information the minutes of the West Yorkshire Combined Authority. The minutes are for noting, so are there any comments or questions regarding the minutes? Thank you. Right. Item 9, calculation of the council tax base, reference from the Cabinet. Councillor G. Turner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Section 67, Part 2 of the Local Government Finance Act 1992 requires that Council approves the council tax base for the coming financial year. Members will note from report that the proposed council tax base for 2018-19 will be set at £117,770. This report also contains a recommendation to continue to pass the full council tax reduction grant to our town and parish councils for the coming financial year. However, this will be reviewed during this financial year, so the potential for change in 2019-20 does exist. Given the very tight timescales this year, as unfortunately we did not receive our settlement until the 19th of December, it was not possible to carry out a full, fair and detailed review this year, as officers had to devote their time to getting the draft budget prepared. Madam Mayor, I ask Council to approve the council tax base and the CTR grant scheme for town and parish councils as laid out in today's agenda.
Who would second that?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to second that.
Are there any comments on this matter? No? Right.
Thank you.
Please, using your consoles, please vote on the recommendation as moved by Councillor Turner. That vote is carried. Yeah. Right, now we're going on to item 10, aren't we? Now moving to item 10, which is item 11 on the agenda. So, pardon me. Yeah. Thank you. Pardon me. It'd be very handy at home when you can't speak. Key discussion topic. This evening's key discussion will be Kirklees Neighbourhood Housing and Kirklees Active Leisure Council. Council will receive two presentations. Firstly, Councillor Scott will present an overview of K&H annual report. Following this, trustees of Kirklees Active Leisure, Councillor Jim Dodds and Adam Fletcher will provide an update on CAL.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'd just like to introduce you to Liz Cook. She's the Chief Exec for Kirklees Neighbourhood Housing. That'll be going through the presentation, obviously. This is something I've picked up. I wasn't the portfolio lead at the time, but I'll canter through it as best I can and take the questions that you may have. So I'm delighted to present the 2016-17 K&H annual report. This has been an exceptional transitional year for K&H. In delivering the merger, they have successfully merged with building services into K&H, delivering the project at pace and ahead of schedule. The new organisation has a 16 million turnover with approximately 1,000 staff. Despite all the changes, they have retained an excellent customer service satisfaction, with 97% of tenants satisfied with repairs and service. Overall, the customer satisfaction across all our services remained at 82%. In governance, they have successfully undertaken a governance review and will be working towards implementing an action plan for 2017 and 18, which will strengthen their existing arrangements. Related to this, they are also reviewing tenant involvement structures to ensure that the tenant's voice remains central in everything they do. They have developed a partnership with the council colleagues, a medium-term financial plan, and reset and refreshed a 30-year business plan. This will deliver the required savings of 8.2 million and a balanced account. Their relationship with the council remains strong, based on the ethos of partnership working. Monthly business meetings with council officers and quarterly assurance reviews with the council portfolio holders ensure that they are delivering their commitments. In repairs, they've carried out over 72,000 responsive repairs, and obviously that was in 2016-17, with the appointments made and kept to a new all-time high of 96.44%. Rent during that period, they had a 99.8% occupancy rate, with only 1.2% of rent lost in empty homes. Arrears performance remained high in the top quartile nationally, despite the challenges of the welfare reform. They have continued supporting the council in delivering the key objectives. They have organised dozens of community events and activities for families, children, older people, and working with a wide range of volunteers and partner organisations. And this was to unlock valuable resources. So this could be for supporting them towards lottery grant funding. It's in enabling them themselves. These have had a positive impact on the health and well-being and overall quality of life, all of which has helped build and maintain successful communities while supporting the council's goal of getting people to do more for themselves. Their specialist employment advisors have helped many tenants access training and employment, while debt advisors have also continued to help the most vulnerable tenants with financial problems. All these activities together with our focus on early intervention when people go into rent arrears have helped to support the council's economic resilience strategy. In conclusion, they've had a productive, successful year, and the merger has brought real opportunities to deliver more for the council, while also helping to meet challenges in the national policy, particularly around the welfare reform and the budget reductions. Our absolute focus now is on health safety to ensure that tenants are safe in their homes, working to the HCA standard, restructured to ensure that focus on customer service and delivery, to deliver an early intervention and prevention. We've developed a new approach of the tenant involvement to ensure that more tenants are involved and retaining support to all the TRAs where possible and community groups, and that's in particular if these groups want to continue. K&H is offering that support. Supporting tenants through welfare reform, and specifically universal credit, which rolled out in November 2017 in Kirklees. Our top priorities, that's 17-18 as I've now took on this role, is to focus on customer service improvements to the existing services, to be more efficient in delivering savings required to achieve the Council's medium-term financial plan targets, to work the Council to deliver the social new rented homes, which 8 new homes are being looked at and will be developed in the Golka area, and to develop a new business and property operation to sustain employment and growth. And also, it's also a high priority about the safety and fire and all that area, which I'm happy to provide all members tonight by email, all the areas that we're actually going to be looking into. Before I finish, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Liz Cook, the Chief Exec for K&H. She's done a fantastic job in her first year here with K&H, and also all her staff that continue to work hard for the Council. We often let them do things and we forget to say thanks after. So they've done a fantastic year. I'd like to acknowledge all the board members that they have. They have absolutely been dedicated, exceptional, worked long and hard to reflect at what they do. And most of all, I'd like to thank Councillor Mather that actually ran that portfolio in 16-17, which I've just presented. And on finishing this, I know it's belated, but it did come to Cabinet. I think we should have a special mention for Cora Carter, MBE, who sadly passed away in November 2016 during that period. So Cora was a pioneer for the tenant movement and made a massive difference to many people's life. And I'd like you to, acknowledge that, and it's a special thank you. So thank you.
Right. Councillor Dodds and Councillor Fletcher. Oh, have we got questions? Oh, right.
I'd just like to say we will get the presentation out to all elected members through the process, and I just want to say thank you to the Council as a whole. K&H feel extremely supported and a valued partner of the Council, and specifically the officers of the Council as well, who work really effectively with my staff. The staff themselves have gone through significant change, so I want to publicly thank all my staff and board members, because we have been in this process of reshaping the organisation, and hope we continue to deliver on all the Council's objectives moving forward into the future. Thanks.
We're going to do the next presentation and then we'll do comments and questions, if that's all right. So, Councillor Fletcher. No, Councillor Dodds.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before I start, I actually live in Upper Cumberworth, which is 200 metres higher than Denby Dale. Therefore, can I go with the officers? Thank you. You all heard that. I'd just like to thank the Council for giving Cal the opportunity to speak to you tonight. It's really important. I've been a Cal trustee since 2012, and I've found the organisation to be very professional, proactive, and with a very committed young workforce. And it's vitally important for Cal that we work very closely with Kirklees Council to continue to deliver good quality leisure facilities to local people. Cal make a significant contribution towards the Kirklees outcomes, as we will try to highlight throughout this brief. I'd now like to introduce you my fellow Cal trustees, Adam Fletcher, who's the Managing Director of Ridley Hall Solicitors. Councillor Mohan Sokol, who's at the back there, and he managed to get in first to volunteer me to do this, so thanks very much. And we've got Alistair Brown, our Chief Exec, who's here to mark us out with 10 and answer any questions. Oh, sorry. Wasn't intentional. Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Nicola. Adam and I would like to now spend some time talking through the following areas. As a refresh, a quick overview of CAL, including a brief summary of the rationale behind CAL in the first place. CAL's contribution to the wider Kirklees agenda and the Kirklees outcomes in terms of health and well-being, early intervention and prevention, and economic growth, and finally, an overview of the major challenges for CAL and the approach that we are taking to try and overcome these. I would like to ask that if you keep any questions to the end of the presentation. I'd now like to hand over to Adam, who will take you through his part. Thank you, Alex.
Thanks, Jim. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to come to speak to you with an update with regards to CAL. I had the opportunity to be out 18 months to stand before you. My role as trustee has been in post since 2012, and I must admit, when you've got a full schedule in the office, you do wonder whether taking on trusteeships are worthwhile, but I must admit, the time that we spend at CAL is challenging, but it is very worthwhile, and we're very fortunate to have a great chief exec, great senior leadership team, but actually we've got some fantastic staff that hopefully you've engaged with when you've been out in the leisure centres across the borough. CAL is a maturing organisation. I think Kirklees is acknowledged to have been ahead of its time when CAL was created. I think I openly admitted last time, so it is on record, I actually live in Wakefield, and their leisure services are not in the same situation as CAL, and I think when I speak to my legal colleagues up and down the country and we talk about trustee roles, I think Kirklees is acknowledged for certainly being ahead of the curve. As you'll see from the presentation, there were 3 reasons that CAL was created, and I think it's well known on that basis. It shouldn't be underestimated the amount of funds that CAL as an organisation have contributed. Over 10 million in capital funding since 2012. And to put it into context, in 2017-18, for the current period, £800,000 has been reinvested. So the monies that do come in, it's often misunderstood by the public that that is used to reinvest to ensure that we've got the good quality facilities that those in Kirklees and surrounding benefit from. And, you know, Huddersfield Leisure Centre, what a flagship that is. Try and find a leisure centre that's on par with that. And £2 million was contributed from CAL towards that particular project. Partnership working is fundamental. It's often misunderstood with regards to CAL. It is independent of the council, but it's because of the relationship that we've got with the council and the officers that CAL's been able to succeed on many fronts. Partnership working is fundamental, particularly when we come on to later on in the project and presentation, that we've got some challenges. Challenges are always a lot easier to deal with when you're working together rather than against each other. It was agreed in 2012 that the agreement with CAL was extended for a further 20 years. With regards to the status of CAL, it is legally separate. I think that's something we sometimes need to get the general public to understand, that it is an independent charity which is limited by guarantee. The governance of the organisation is via a trustee board. It's a very diverse and experienced board, and it's certainly something I've benefited from. You know, the diversity, whether it's legal, accountancy, there's representations from the public and private sector, and I think that does help us. And again, comes back to that point with the challenges that we're facing, that we have that depth of experience to get us through those challenges. We're very fortunate with the 12 trustees that we've got a great chair in Dawn Stevenson, who you may know. She worked up until recently at South West Yorkshire Partnership NHS Foundation Trust, and she's a very good chairperson and gets the optimum out of all the trustees. Since 2002, we've also doubled turnover, which in a competing market, I think that's something to be very proud of. And we are one of the major employees in the borough, and we are the leading employer of those under 25. Over 51% of the workforce is under 25, and I think that's something that we're very proud of, to give those people a start and to develop, and many of those do stay for many years. You'll see from the current presentation point, we've got 13 main leisure centres across the borough. They're a diverse portfolio as such. You've got the flagship of Huddersfield Leisure Centre. I'm the trustee that works with the team at Dewsbury, and that's a great centre with lots of things going on and certainly things planned for the future. But we've also got some community-focused sites as well, with Sisset Baths, Colne Valley, Slowett and Batley Baths. You'll see from the graph, with regards to the figures, that the service that CAL offers does offer good value for money, and particularly as the funding has dropped over recent years from the council, turnover has continued to increase. We're delighted to have over 24,000 members at CAL, which is a great representation of those in the borough. To put into context, with regards to the funds and support that we receive from the council, for every pound that is generated, it equates to £15 in turnover that it enables us to bring into the organisation. The next slide deals with customer satisfaction, and as you'll see, that remains consistent. We pride ourselves on good customer service, or great customer service, and 4 out of 5 of our users are of that opinion. We fully understand that there are challenges, particularly when there are funding cuts, to try and maintain that, and it is something that the staff are focused on, and particularly when there is competition across the borough, we need to make sure that we are providing that quality service, even if it is in difficult circumstances. There are a range of partners. I suspect you'll be aware of all of those that are detailed on the slide. We're very proud with third sector leaders. I think CAL and its structure offers a lot of support and the network to some of these organisations. And at a time when funding is so tight, it's so important that these organisations do work together. And whether it's working with the schools and the North Huddersfield Trust School, the Town Foundation, I can speak personally with my involvement with dementia, the expertise and the support that CAL have brought to an organisation with limited support, and it has enabled us to achieve a lot more than we would have been able to as a standalone organisation.
Thank you, Adam. It's my turn again. Building on the theme of partnership, the Council have led on the development of the Kirklees outcomes. Key strategic outcomes are not just the councils, but all the partners across the voluntary, public and private sectors in Kirklees, and we should join together and work collaboratively to try to make sure that these outcomes are fulfilled. This is a really important slide, because Kirklees, we need to encourage young children to be physically active. It should be something we can all play a part in, and something which positively contributes to a young person's development, helping with their self-confidence, self-esteem and developing a healthy habit for life. The current migration of the Council's school swimming service to CAL is a further element where we can build on the current excellent programme link this is into, which will link into other CAL activity opportunities, such as holiday activities, swimming development opportunities, or young people becoming junior members where they can access a range of ability and activities across Kirklees. CAL is working closely with a range of local partners, including the Council, the 4 school partnerships, the Huddersfield Town Foundation, and Huddersfield Community Trust develop an ambitious overall Kirklees offer. For school-aged children to access both in and out of school, providing good quality, safe, affordable activity opportunities led by qualified coaches and leaders. CAL already offers a wide range of affordable and accessible options for children and young people to take part and keep taking part in activities. However, moving forward, we'll be extending this offer significantly as we develop the sites at Batley Sports and Tennis Centre and Dewsbury Sports Centre to offer some existing new family attractions for local people that should encourage local young people and ideally their families to get in and stay active. This builds on continuing successes of the Splash Park at Huddersfield Leisure Centre, with a new major pool inflatable being available at Dewsbury Sports Centre from February 2018 as the next family attraction available for use. Staying physically active also positively contributes towards encouraging a preventive approach to healthcare, with CAL-managed sites and a range of centres and activities already available, trying to provide something for everyone within the local community, with activity taking place within pleasant surroundings by qualified friendly staff. Being active also contributes significantly to positive mental health, and for many of the CAL's customers, the social aspects of their activity is just as important as the physical activity part itself. Whether it's simply getting out of the house, regularly meeting with a group of friends, being part of a club, or etc., all of these add significantly to the positive mental health value of making use of CAL's managed sites. Indeed, physical activity is now often referred to as the golden bullet. If we can get people to be more active, then as well as improving their mental health, people start to think about their diet, how much they drink, to stop smoking, and to overall begin to think about a healthier lifestyle. As mentioned previously, CAL is the district's largest employer of under-25s, with the charity providing an excellent entry-to-work role for young people, who can often begin their employment career by undertaking some casual work within a CAL site, taking up an apprenticeship with CAL, or working their way up the CAL management structure as they try different roles and pick up necessary skills and knowledge. CAL looks to appoint people who have the right passion and attitude, and it's very encouraging to see young people with enthusiasm and energy progress within CAL or work for CAL before moving on to employment elsewhere or university. CAL sites are located across Kirklees and are often where the whole spectrum of the local demographic comes together to take part in activities. Nowhere is this more evident than in sites located within areas of disadvantage, with Batley Baths and Recreation Centre and Deaton Sports Arena, two excellent examples where local leisure facilities can provide strong examples of successful community cohesion. Having good quality, attractive local leisure facilities staffed by friendly and knowledgeable individuals is likely to be a key factor for people to live in an area and in turn for businesses to want to locate there. This isn't just about providing some gyms, but it's about providing a wide range of local activity options that will be of interest across the community, taking place in excellent local leisure facilities at a price that local people can afford to access. As previously, in terms of moving from a care-based approach to a more preventive healthcare model, encouraging local people to become more active and to make use of CAL's management site as part of their activity mix will only have positive benefits in the longer term that should overall allow individuals to remain independent and able to look after themselves for longer. As a major charity and a not-for-profit organisation, it is a core element of CAL's charitable objectives to ensure it provides a service for the whole Kirklees community, contributing significant amounts of social value in terms of health improvements, both physically and mentally. CAL very much is about Kirklees first, and any surplus generated is reinvested into the services we provide for local people, A number of practical approaches are used to reinforce this approach and encourage access to the whole community. This includes CAL's adoption of a differential price strategy, accepting the Kirklees passport and offering the CAL card, or as it's now known as the CAL Flexi Card, pay and play scheme. CAL also considers locality pricing, with pricing at Deaton Sports Arena much lower than at other centres to encourage fitness activity in the area. While the low-cost fitness offers available at Huddersfield Leisure Centre and Dewsbury Sports Centre, which is only £17 a month, have helped CAL to ensure that over 25% of our membership comes from recognised areas of disadvantage. CAL's principle of cross-subsidy works on a range of levels, with, for example, the fitness suite class provision generally providing the required cross-subsidy to allow the much more costly swimming pools to continue. Over £2.3 million was spent by CAL on local supplies in 2016-17, with CAL reinvesting in the local economy and trying to help ensure that the Kirklees pound remains strong. I'll now hand back to Adam, who will talk through the challenges that CAL face in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. You'll see from the slides there's no getting away from the fact that there is a need and there's a full understanding from CAL of the funding reductions. As you'll see, 750,000 and there's a further 400,000 over the next 2 years. I'd like to assure you that this is something that the trustees fully understand and are working with to proactively ensure that CAL can deliver those high standards of service. Competition is an issue. Competition is good, but we have noticed in the last 12 to 24 months there's been an attraction towards Kirklees, both in the north and the south, and it's making sure that we are competing with them on service and price, and that's something that the teams are well aware of. Disposable income is a major issue. You know, I think there is an understanding out there of a need to live well, but if you've not got the money to pay your membership, it does create a problem, and that is something that we are aware of. We've also got the challenge of the national living wage. Although it only applies to 25, we value all our staff, and we've already explained that there's 51% of our staff that are below the age of 25, and we made that agreement that not to discriminate against individuals doing the same job. But that is at a cost of 173,000 and will increase and creates its own challenges. CAL's approach to dealing with these issues is continuing to maximise efficiencies, to make sure that we work more corporately and more organised and across the organisation consistently. Huddersfield Leisure Centre, as great as it is, creates its own challenges. Its budget is near enough of half of the actual budget for CAL. We've also moved on from gym membership of 4,000 at the old site to nearly 9,000, so that comes with its challenges. Passing through Huddersfield, 390 children a week and 380,000 visitors to the Splash Park alone since it was opened, and over 800 parties. CAL's approach, the one thing I'm known at the board, the green elements, we do spend a lot on heating, as you can imagine, and there's a lot of investment gone into that. Over 700,000 has been reinvested with a view to actually saving money. And of those, every pound spent, we are actually getting £2 back, and that is something that we're looking at deploying across all the sites. We want to keep the facilities in good repair, make sure that we're keeping up with the latest fitness trends, and use the space on site. There are often, if you walk around the leisure centres during the day, areas that aren't at full capacity, and that's something we want to work towards. HD1, which I understand there's lots going on throughout this year, hopefully, that will give us opportunities as well for further partner working. And with our large customer base, I think that gives opportunities that with those customers to give them more facilities from the one centre. I think the key thing for CAL is diversification. There are changing requirements out there for leisure. A couple of these, I don't know if you've seen these, some of these are actually will be new to Yorkshire, actually some of it new to England. Tag X, if you're not aware, Battle Sports and Tennis, is soft play for adults. That might be something for the council cross-party. It's an opportunity for some soft play in a safe environment. But also Dewsbury Sports Centre as well, investing in using those spaces. And there's options once we've got those established as well. There's soft play as well for the little monsters that want to burn off some steam as well. So you can do that as well. Tag X is probably more suitable. In summary, I'm conscious of time. The strong established partnership that we've got with the council will enable us to get through these challenges. It will be tough, but I'm conscious in the medium term we will come outside of that much stronger. There are difficult decisions to be made. We want to keep those high quality standards and maintain the staff and facilities, and like I say, making the most of those spaces that we're getting the best return on the investments and seizing the opportunities when they arise, whether it's HD1 or changing it in trends. I do believe that there will be some sunshine at the end of these challenges.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I will now open these items for questions. We'll do Cal first then, since they're already here. Councillor Mather.
Actually, I wanted to talk on the previous item, Kirklees neighbourhood housing. Wait, after this, but I would like to say what an exciting presentation and all the exciting things that Carl is doing. It makes me go wow each time I pass the building and all of the different packages that are being put in place. I'm looking forward to working with you around HD1 provision. Thank you.
Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to commend you for your presentation. I'm now going to be the portfolio lead for Cal, so I welcome your presentation. And it's about the diversification, the things that you were mentioning in the portfolio. It's like looking at new ways, new things, doing it differently, instead of having empty spaces. But I'd also like to mention about the partnership working. We embrace that. The council will be looking forward to working alongside you. So well done.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Light.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I'd just like to say thank you to all members of CAL and all staff and management for actually delivering a good service over the last, 18 years since you were set free from the council. And despite having challenging financial targets for every year, which you've still continued to be drive innovation and actually be at the top of the provision of sports facilities. So I think I hope the whole council would support that, because I think it's really important. For the last 14 years or so, members in this council have been telling us that Spenborough Pool was in its last 5 years of life. For the last 2 years, Wycliffe Mount Sports Centre hasn't even existed. There's supposedly been a commitment from the council administration to build a new Spen Valley Sports Centre, including a pool. I think that's been around since at least 2012, yet there seems to be a vacuum of progress. What's Cal's view?
Thank you, Councillor Light. Councillor Turner N.
You can take questions and then I get them to answer them.
Yeah. Take questions first, then answers afterwards. Councillor N. Turner.
Well, it's not particularly a question. I mean, I just wanted to congratulate everybody on the board and the CEO and the people who work there. You know, it's been a very interesting report to listen to what's been said. I'm particularly interested in capacity. You talked about capacity at peak times and everything. I know from not my own personal experience, but one of my offspring uses the facilities quite considerably a bit. What she's found is when you try and book onto classes, that's particularly problematic. And I think if we can do something around that, you might get quite a lot more clientele. Because I see that people book, they don't have to be a member to book, they can just book. That might encourage more membership. So I just think that's maybe an area to look at. And the other thing I wanted to congratulate you on was what you said about the payments of young people under 25. Because I actually think this is a bit of an anathema, really, that the minimum wage is only for children, young people over 25. Because actually, you know, I was married with 2 kids at that age. And I know quite a number of people who are trying to support their own houses, the children and everything else. And to think that they can't earn as much when they're doing the same job is actually disgraceful. So the fact that you're addressing that problem, I think, is really, really excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Councillor Pandor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to say thanks to Jim, Adam and Alistair to actually come and present such an excellent report. I don't want to repeat what other members have said, but a few things that came out, which is really, really good, compared to Wakefield, we're way ahead, and that's really, really good news. When I see Councillor Peter Box, I'll actually mention that we're actually doing better than you guys, you know, in Kirklees. But there is a reason for that, and I actually touched on it, that we actually are ahead of the curve in this particular area of work. Before all the austerity stuff started, we actually got on there on the front foot. And despite all the financial challenges you talked about, we are actually providing a really, really good service, especially around the health and wellbeing agenda. Because, you know, the stuff you do, I class still within the public sector, and the kind of people that you actually cater for. You mentioned hundreds of thousands of kids that actually go through the service that you actually offer. You also mentioned the physical, mental health and well-being, which is really, really important. Because if we don't have that service that you provide, the stuff that we do within our children's services, adult services, it just won't stack up. When we talk about a whole system, so despite the fact that you're actually arm's length, that is a critical piece of one Kirklees, and you know, I really, really commend you on that, because you know, you actually understand the challenges, so you understand the market, you understand the supply and demand issues, and the challenges going forward, financial challenges, investment challenges that Robert Light mentioned, you know, really, really big questions, and attracting that new customer base, and actually holding that customer base of what you've got at the moment. And I'm sure Cathy Scott, under her new portfolio, you know, will support you in what you're doing. I will support you where I can. And again, I'm really, really inspired by the stuff you're doing, and it's about communities, and well done, and congratulations.
Thank you, Councillor Pandor. Councillor Walker.
I would also like to congratulate everybody at CAL for such an excellent performance. My question is, I would like to know a little bit more about what you are intending to do in the future to develop further opportunities for our residents with disabilities, residents of all ages who fall into that category. Thank you.
Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, thank you again for the very informative presentation and the honesty about the challenges that you face going forward as well. Councillor Walker just touched on something I was going to mention about disabilities and how you plan to adapt and change through diversity. Also, I wanted to touch on capacity and making use of space. I know in the past of the old leisure centre, clubs, in particular boxing clubs, used to have that as the highlight of their year, to have and hold events locally, which they were very proud of doing. I've not seen much of that recently. I'm just wondering whether the price has changed, or you offer something as some kind of an incentive to local groups and organisations who wish to use the centre locally for their own sporting benefits as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burke. After Councillor Kendrick was spoken, we're closing this, so now it's Councillor Apin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Brilliant presentation. Cal's doing a wonderful job, but I feel I have to mention something which does worry me. I don't know whether other members share this, concerning Batley Tennis Centre
some will be aware that I came to the Cabinet meeting along with various users of the tennis centre who were objecting to the changes that were being made. And a remark was made at the Cabinet meeting, I can't remember by whom, that as a result of these changes, 2 years' time, they'll be back again to close the facility. I sincerely hope that isn't the case, because it does seem to me that although tennis is looked upon as what some people might describe as an elite sport, there are nevertheless those people who want to do well at it. And as far as I'm aware, the Batley Tennis Centre is the only publicly available tennis centre in Kirklees. All the other facilities are private. I suppose I'm seeking reassurance that it is going to remain, even though I understand all the pressures. We went through all of those at the Cabinet meeting, and I hear all of that. Somehow or other, it seems to me Cal has got to do the balancing act of providing as many sports as possible for people in Kirklees to participate in. And particularly, we should be conscious of those from poorer backgrounds who want to take up a sport like tennis. I could probably mention squash as well, but we weren't talking about that at the time. But it does seem to me that we have got to be careful with what we've got. Otherwise, you know, you're doing a great job.
Thank you, Councillor Pinnock. Councillor Ahmed.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank the presentation as well. I just want to ask a question regarding Dewsbury Sports Centre. I know we had a presentation given to us about early last year, I think the middle of last year, in terms of the development with Dewsbury Sports Centre, in terms of the 5-a-side courts and the engagement with clubs and voluntary organisations. So I just want to find out what stage are we with the fantastic presentation that you did give us regarding the development centre. I really just want to find a timescale of where we are with that, please.
Thank you, Councillor Ahmed. Councillor Kendrick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll join in the congratulations for a very good presentation with colleagues. And what heartens me is probably the reference so much to the Kirklees pound, which is something this council is passionate about, and very much the talk about social values. And I think that needs to be developed quite a lot more. I may have moved on to another portfolio, but I still have a passion around physical activity and public health, and a lot of the things that Cal enables people to participate on are those things that contribute to physical and mental and emotional health. Just as an aside, I'm really interested to know how much the Board of Trustees walks the talk. I'll excuse Adam because he's a Wakefield comer in, but he looks pretty good. But, you know, I'm just really interested in a light-hearted manner, but in the interest of early intervention and preventing people needing social care, I'm really interested to know how many of the board are regular users of Cal facilities.
Thank you, Thank you, Councillor Kendrick. I'm going to give them 5 minutes to respond, and then we're going on to Cathy Scott. Are they going to answer that? Yeah. Right. Have you any questions for Councillor Cathy?
No. We'll get Alistair to respond.
All right. Well, I said that.
Right. Good evening, councillors. Thanks very much. Thanks a lot for all those comments and for the questions. So I've got 5 minutes to go through these. This is quite a trial for me because I do talk a bit. So where to start? Where to start with all those? Fundamentally, Cal is about One Kirklees. It's about working with the council, keeping resources in Kirklees, keeping people people employed here. You know, we're absolutely committed to that. Partnership with the local authority and others is really fundamental. I think Councillor Kendrick's question, definitely the vast majority of the board of 12 trustees are CAL members. They get encouraged. There's some... To be honest, they're some of our harshest critics, so I know that some of my colleagues run a mile when they see the trustees coming in. Some of the other questions that you asked, disability access and disability use is really, really important for us. CAL is about the whole community coming and using the sites, not just the people that can afford it, not just the people who want to use the gyms, but about everyone. So if you go to Huddersfield Leisure Centre on a Monday evening, or during the day on Monday, you'll see a fantastic disability range of activities taking place there. Up to 80, 90, 100 participants and their carers taking part in that, and it's really important for us. The swimming side as well is really important, and we do a lot of links with a lot of different disability groups. Always room for doing more, so if you know of local groups, then please do put them in touch with us, and we'll see how we can help them out if we possibly can. A couple of the questions were about the over 25s and under 25s. It's very important for CAL that we support the under 25s. How can you have a lifeguard who's 26 paid at a different rate to a lifeguard who's 24? I think that's ridiculous, and we will be continuing to support that as long as we possibly can. I think the trustees are very committed to doing that, if at all possible. The one about classes, it is difficult trying to keep that demand up. We have over 200 classes a week within the Huddersfield area, so many more than any of our private sector competitors. Certainly get your people down to CAL sites. We've got a new CAL app, which you might be able to download and use, which is excellent and really going down very well to help manage that. And we've also done a lot about no-shows, because there's nothing worse than coming along to a class, you think it's fully booked, and then there's people that aren't there. So we've really done a lot of work in reducing that down as well. We talked about the big developments. There was a couple of questions about that. Batley Sports and Tennis Centre, definitely there's a commitment now, more than there's been in all the time I've been in Kirklees, towards tennis going forward. We've changed the model around there. We're working very closely with the LTA as the governing body, working very closely with Leeds in partnership. We've just appointed a specific tennis lead again at the site, and I'm really confident that we'll have 85,000 new customer visits coming in there from young people that will potentially be the English version of Andy Murray going forward. So I'm really hoping that we can keep that going. I think that's really important that happens. In terms of the development timescale, Batley Sports and Tennis Centre was always going to be the first one. July 2018 is when we're hoping that the new facility there is fully opened and finished. We can only do so much. Capacity for CAL, as it is for the local authority and so on, is very stretched. Dewsbury will follow on very, very closely after that, because I know the Dewsbury members, including Councillor Scott, will be bending my ear about that. So we're looking at the lift just now, because that needs to be sorted out, and we're doing some work on that, and then we'll be moving on with the project as well. But definitely a commitment is there to do that as soon as we possibly can. I'd like to finish now if I can, but Councillor Light's question right at the start. We're working very hard with the Council. We have been doing for a number of years. It's been frustrating, I think, for everyone involved. I wish we had enough money for new leisure sites up and down the district. But I think we're very, very close there. We'd support any investment. CAL is keen to help that if it possibly can, and I am optimistic that a final decision is really, really close with this, which the people of the Spen Valley, as the people of Huddersfield, deserve, and hopefully we can provide to them.
Thank you very much. Now, I realise we're constrained for time, so I'm going to ask Dave Harris and Liz Cook to answer questions on K&H. And can I open up comments to councillors now? Councillor Stewart-Turner.
Thank you. In the most part, I'm a big fan of K&H. I really enjoy the relationships we have with our local EMOs, our local area managers. I think we do some excellent work together, working together. But I've got to say that recently I've been a little disappointed about the lack of support for tenants and residents associations. We've already had one fold, another one planning to. We have months now of lack of information. People don't know you're having discussions. Sorry. We have months now where people do not know what's happening. There's a big void of information, and it's very, very demoralising, very demotivating for all these TRAs. And as an authority and as partners, we're supposed to value the volunteers, we're supposed to value volunteering, we're supposed to be helping to enable our communities to do more for themselves. And yet we've had a whole group of willing, enthusiastic people that are actually going in the opposite direction now. So I would really like to know more about what we're going to do to help support our TRAs.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart-Turner. Can I just say that I will be closing this after Councillor Walker because time will have run out. So, Councillor Cool.
Thank you. I want to cover two areas, one of which is new revenue streams, something I've been going on about for a while, and I think with the merger with Building Services, some real opportunities here. The two areas are looking for buccaneering work in other authorities, seeing what we can do in those areas to draw in income. The other one is something we've actually had a budget amendment passed on, which was about doing work on heating and servicing and new boilers out there. And we've actually been promoting West Yorkshire schemes when we've actually got the capacity and capability to do it ourselves. So a bit of commentary on that. The other thing is about universal credit. I remember when the bedroom tax came in, we were quite clear that from the council and the direction we gave from the council that victims of the bedroom tax shouldn't be penalised, and that we should in fact be helping those people who were basically make sure the poor were not punished as a result of those changes by government, the coalition government. And so now we come to universal credit, which, of course, is going to leave many people 4 weeks in arrears. Now, I would like to think that the direction that we are giving from the council is that the victims of universal credit should not suffer as a result. And I'd like to think that we are offering support, assistance, help, and that people are not evicted as a result of changes that have been made by this government. So any commentary on that would be welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Councillor N. Turner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, could I just congratulate you on the report, because I don't think anybody's done that yet, and actually it's an excellent report. And I don't think that we can underestimate the amount of effort it must have been to bring building services into K&H. You know, two culturally different organisations coming together and all of the challenges that will have posed. I think we can't underestimate how the effect of that. I was going to ask about the tenants, but obviously that's already been asked, so that's covered. What I do want to say is, I noticed there was something about 8 houses in Golka. And my question is, 3 years ago, this council agreed, it's over 3 years ago now, that we were going to develop, or work with K&H to develop housing at Ashbrow and Soot Hill. And I didn't, unless I've missed it and I've not read it in here, what's going on there? I mean, over 3 years ago, that we've got an absolutely desperate need, and I don't quite know where it falls, really, but what can we do as a council and councillors to actually make that happen on the ground? If we're short of houses, come on, guys, we really need to make it happen. So, comment on that would be good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Councillor Mather.
I'd also like to congratulate Kirklees Neighbourhood Housing for an excellent year of performance and management of change. I'd like the Council to note the dedication and hard work of the Board as unpaid volunteers and for our staff who go the extra mile every day. I would also like for us to applaud the leadership shown by the Chair and the Executive team during this period of tumultuous change. Kirklees Neighbourhood Housing is our partner and as such shares our vision and value in supporting our communities in every way possible with the Council, and together I believe we'll defend our council houses to the last house. And I would like to say a personal thanks for making me feel at home in Kirklees. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mather. Councillor D. Hall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, it's a shame that we feel like we're being pushed through a little on this topic, because these two bodies which interact so closely with the Council it's worthy to take time to question and to just probe a little, and perhaps it should be done more often. I have two questions, actually. The first is that it was a big step for the Council to merge the building services with K&H, and I wonder whether we could be given any kind of grassroots examples as to how that's worked and what benefits that's brought. And the second question, which is to do with this rather peculiar term, arm's length, when we talk about arm's length organisations. I don't like that term because I think arm's length always summons up some kind of image of you holding a fish head or something at the end of your arm and not really wanting to come into, or keeping some kind of disreputable person at bay. Oh, sorry, Martin. We have this arm's length, and of course it was a decision of the Council at the time that was the model that it preferred, and it had certain advantages. Thinking about those advantages, do you find that the arm is growing too short, or is it growing too long, or is it just about right for the needs of the future?
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Pan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The last point that Councillor Hall mentioned, I'll come on to that, but I just want to say a few words before I do. Again, a fantastic report, and really well done to Liz and her team, and Dave Harris for actually chairing K&H for a number of years. But I just want to go back in time when actually Dave Harris was the chair of housing many, many years ago. I remember I used to be a project manager and a housing officer in Kirklees. And I remember the days of Cliff Stewart. And back in the days when empowerment and participation was in development, the argument and the debate was, how do we actually empower our tenants to take ownership and control of their own lives? And through successive governments, the debates actually changed, national policy changed, and it's important to understand that how K&H got where it did. Almo was the flavour of the time. A number of local authorities wanted to actually empower their tenants, and this was the only way to actually empower tenants. Because if we retained our stock in-house, tenant empowerment, communities and people taking ownership and responsibility of their own lives would not have taken place. The second issue was we had a massive backlog nationally of decency. Billions of pounds under investment in our housing, and we desperately need that money to come into the council. So on the backdrop of that, we actually then had to go through an inspection regime. We managed to get through that, and we then drew down the decency money, and tenants were empowered. And we actually got through that over the last 10 years or so. But now, housing's back on the agenda, and things haven't really changed, because at the heart of whatever structure you have, it's about communities, it's about families, it's about people, it's about children, and it's about how we actually interact the wider social fabric and the economy of what we're trying to do. And we mentioned Housing Plus and skills and training and jobs and all that. Recently, there's been a resource shuffle, and Sajid Jawed, who actually had housing in his remit, but he wasn't mentioned, he's actually said housing and communities and local government. So, although I applaud where we've been and where we've come from, I still believe that there's so much more work to do now in our communities. Have we actually delivered what we were trying to deliver with empowerment and actually making people come up the economic ladder? I believe in the last few years, Madam Mayor, we've actually gone backwards. So my challenge to you would be, how do we actually create a new vision for Kirklees neighbourhood housing, or for housing? And Councillor Hall actually said a critical point, that where do we go from here? You know, is it arm's length or is it across your chest? To me, it doesn't matter. To me, what matters is how do we deliver the outcomes that we've actually set. And the challenge to you is, how do we actually come back and develop that new vision for the next 10 years to actually address the issues that we actually see in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pandor. Councillor Walker.
I strongly support the comments and questions from Councillor Turner about building affordable homes. And just to develop that, what do you see as the barriers to more of this? And what could we do to enable
more affordable homes to be built by K&H, what kind of actions could the council take, and what may you take as an organisation to make this happen? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Walker. I'm going to allow now 10 minutes for answers, and then we're going to have a short break.
Do I need the microphone, or is my voice loud enough?
So thank you for your comments. One of the things which I thought was really interesting, David Hall, saying that we're rushing this. We could spend several hours having a debate about the whole range of issues that you've all raised. Some of the things that Shabir's just mentioned actually are very interrelated. And maybe we need to think of a way of A, doing this more often, but not necessarily doing it like this, but actually having a far more fundamental conversation between you and your family housing company. So I do think we need to think about that, and I think it will be much better if it was done on a more regular basis, because there's a huge amount we can talk about, and there's an awful lot that we could actually spend the next 2 hours talking about that we can't. So I'm just going to pick up 3 questions, all of which actually could take quite a considerable amount of time, and Liz will then pick up some of the others, particularly around development, and then maybe we'll just have a little bit at the end. I'll start with the tenants. Many of you in this council chamber will know my history of the tenant movement in this place. Very dear to my heart. It goes all the way back to the 1980s. Nobody was more sad to see the state of what was the Fed and what became CWC and its demise. But it went down because its history couldn't survive any longer. It was past its sell-by date. And we're now in a situation of having to rebuild a tenant movement, a relationship with tenants for the 21st century, which is very, very different from what we had in the 1980s and 90s. Communities are different, the world's different. The specific point that's been raised about support now to TRAs, there's no point in pretending that a lot of TRAs that the CWC supported actually, when we do due diligence, don't exist. They're not there. They might have been taking, the annual grant, but they were basically not functioning. What we are now doing as a board and a company is reinventing the best we can connection with the tenants that are still there. We are supporting TRAs that are active. There are places in this borough where there are no tenants left. There's no organisation left. And we've got to find ways of engaging a completely different range of people. The average age of TRAs is, we've got to start, and have already started, how do we actually get younger people in the tenants movement involved in the business and involved in their communities and with us? First things are quite important. We've just recruited 2 young BME board members, first time ever, from communities not far from here, who are a hell of a lot younger than me, and they are the beginnings of the new generation. We've got to reach out to tenants across communities who are not going to come to meetings. They're not going to go to traditional TRA meetings. We've got to engage them on things that matter to them in their communities and actually harness their energy. And some of the things that we're doing, as Shabir knows, around, and on some of the slides, around how do we actually help people come together, get people into work, because the only way they're going to pay the rent is actually getting to work, and support people who are under huge pressure now from some of the changes that are actually taking place, to the point that Andrew Cooper's question about universal credit. So what I will say to you, we are in the process of re-engaging with TRAs that exist to see what support that we can still offer them. We're conscious that there are areas where there is nothing, but we've got to start working with other people, possibly other groups, to see how we can actually do it. But what we are not going to replicate is the type of tenant movement that we had in the past that was predicated on meetings and formal consultation and things that people don't go to anymore. It's got to be a completely different way of attracting people's interest and communicating with all sorts of different methods, most of which are alien to me, because if we don't do that, we are losing a whole generation of people who are very interested in what's happening in their communities. You can engage people on things that matter to them, and we've got to actually do that. But we're not going to be able to support, 100 TRAs,
because there's not the money, because the council let CWC go, quite understandably, and took the saving. We've got to actually put what back we can out of money that we can actually come in our existing budget. So we are very, very conscious about the whole of that agenda, and I'd be more than happy to talk at much more length about it to all of you. Universal credit. It's difficult to talk about universal credit and one's blood pressure not to go to the point of ending up in A&E. The situation that Andrew set out is very critical. Basically, universal credit produces 7 weeks' rent arrears on every single council tenant's account that goes onto universal credit, because it ain't paid for 7 weeks. We're now told it might not be paid for 6 weeks or whatever, but that is a debt. The theory is that when the tenant dies, leaves, moves on, and 7 weeks later the last payment comes in, presumably to some, we get it. We know that that is not going to happen. So bad debt provision on universal credit is going to be a very big cost on the housing revenue account, which is essentially a cost on every other tenant. We don't have a policy like some housing associations and others do, that they have a real issue about evictions because you don't pay the rent, you're out the door. We didn't do it on the bedroom tax, and we ain't about to start now either. In fact, the next board meeting, we're actually looking at a new, non-eviction policy, for want of a better word. How do we manage the situation for people in a situation that's not their fault? We provide a lot of debt advice, we provide a lot of intensive support, and that's one of the reasons why the initial tranche of people on universal credit, which were about 300-400, we managed to support them. We didn't evict any of them. Yes, some of them had debt, but we tried to manage it, we tried to get them additional money, we tried to make sure that we gave them the best possible advice. What we can do for 350 people, we can't do for 10,000, because that's what we'll be chasing 10,000 rent accounts when universal credit comes out altogether. So we're not going to do any of that, but it's a complex issue, and be happy to talk about that any time you like. And lastly, for me, David's point about arm's length. For me, and I know I speak for the board, we are proud to be a council housing company. We're proud that we're part of this place, we're part of the democratic process, we're here to do the business that the council wants, we're here to look after communities that we all support and love. The issue about that relationship will always change. There are huge advantages for being separate to a point, which is why you gave us a 20-year contract, a merger, and a much bigger budget so we can go and do more for you. And that's the direction we want to go, to do more for the council, to use the freedoms that we've got, the ability we've got to do other things. But it's all about delivering the council's objectives. It's not about ours. We don't have, some sort of backdoor thing we want to actually go and become a private company or a housing association. We are proud to be a housing company owned by the council, and that's exactly where we will be, certainly all the time I'm chair of the organisation.
Thank you very, very much for that.
So I've got 30 seconds before that. I don't know if you can shout essentially, as you know, we were a year old as a merged company in October 2017. We're still on a development journey, bringing two cultures, two organisations together, and by March this year we will have focused very much on the reshaping of the organisation, making sure housing management and property services work together. One of the things, as you'll know, which is very dear to all of your hearts and absolutely to mine and the council's, is around compliance and governance. As you know, January 2017, I started a compliance journey within K&H to make sure we're up to date and extremely effective on fire safety, gas safety, etc. That has pushed us with the Grenfell disaster into a direction of travel to make sure that I'm absolutely crystal clear that I can give Jackie the confidence and commitment that we're compliant as an organisation. Keeping our tenants safe is our 100% top priority. So that has moved a little bit about where we are on our journey. I think just to echo what Dave said in terms of partnership, our key thing is to deliver the council's agenda. So we're delivering the housing agenda on your behalf. Our primary function is to manage and maintain the 23,000 council houses. The development work we do is in partnership with the council. So question was asked about the 8 council houses. We are working with the council service to deliver those, and that is a really good step forward. And the council are going to deliver the extra care at Ashbrow, and hopefully we will be able to manage that on their behalf. So development is not the remit of K&H. It's about working in partnership with the council to make sure we play our active role and deliver in partnership with the council more social and affordable homes. So I know we've got loads of other questions, but I can share the presentation with you. I'm getting the nod to shush now, so that's fine. But you know, we'll cover those questions, and I hope you've got one today. You've got a briefing from me about housing issues down the email today, hopefully. I signed it off today, so it might come tomorrow. But if you've got those questions you want me to answer within that monthly briefing to elected members, please let me know and I'll cover them. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Jackie, do you want to make a comment?
I just wanted to propose, actually, that we have condensed 2 big items into one and obviously had a time limit against it. So I just wonder whether it would be worthwhile at some stage having a housing debate at full council on all of the issues. So officers will take that away as a proposal and work that up. Okay? Thank you.
Right. We're going to cut short the break because we're running well out of time, so we've got 15 minutes instead of half an hour. So... The next item is written questions to the leaders of the Cabinet members, chairs of committees and nominated spokesperson. A written schedule of submitted questions has been circulated. So, question 1. Councillor Andrew Cooper to Deputy Leader of the Council. Should be a panel.
Question to Councillor Pandor. How much influence do you have on the West Yorkshire Combined Authority?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Andrew, for that question. I'm part of the Business Investment Panel. I also substitute for the leader on the West Yorkshire Combined Authority, on the LEP Board and the City Region Combined Authority. But at the same time, Madam Mayor, it's important to understand that there is not just me who actually has got influence on the Combined Authority and all the boards that go with it. For example, we've got the York and West Yorkshire Combined Authority Investment Committee. Councillor Peter McBride is on that. We've also got the Transport Committee, which is a whole host of councillors from across the piece. Monisha Kaushik, Councillor Firth, Martin Bolt, Andrew Pinnock. We've also got the Oversight and Scrutiny Committee, which Andrew Cooper is a member of, along with other councillors. Councillor Robert Light is the chair of that committee, and Paul Cade is also a member. I can go on, Madam Mayor. The Investment Committee is only one part of that. There's also the bigger Investment Committee, which actually Peter McBride's on. So the question is, what influence have I got? I've got influence, but at the same time, it's a collective. It's about how this council actually has an influence on the broader sub-region and the region as a whole. And the only way we can actually get more influence is to actually get a common understanding within this council. And I remember, Madam Mayor, that when big decisions were being taken, when Councillor McBride used to be on the Transport Committee, he brought the stuff back here to actually get council endorsement, because simple things about are we actually named in the documents that actually get released, that go to central government, and it's important that we are actually on the map. So unless we actually work collectively, we don't have that much influence, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Pandor. Do you have Cooper? Okay.
I thank you for your response, Councillor Pandora. I heard a few things there about the investment panel, the local enterprise partnership board, the investment committee. So I'd like to ask a question about this, which is insider location produced by the local enterprise partnership, which the West Yorkshire Combined Authority has a lot of influence over. And it's called Insider Location. It's the Leeds City Region Investment Guide for 2017. And there are 28 pages in this document. And there are 46 photographs. I've looked at all the photographs. And there's some lovely photographs in here of Leeds, Wakefield, Bradford, practically everywhere, even Barnsley. But not Kirklees. And in fact, when I looked through the document and read the document, I read the document from page to page, there is a fleeting mention of HD1 and about outline planning for Bradley Park. So I guess my question is who in the Cabinet looked at this document before it went out, when it was drafted? How do you feel you've got lots of influence on all these panels you've mentioned, and then this document, this prime document, which is here to get investment into the area, has got nothing practically about Kirklees in? How do you feel you've got influence when this document says absolutely nothing about Kirklees?
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Councillor Pandor.
Madam Mayor, Councillor Cooper has got a point. We should have actually had the £170 million investment that we've actually brought into the council. For example, North Kirklees Growth Zone, that should be in there. The Cooper Bridge development, that should be in there. The Huddersfield Rail Station regeneration, that should be in there. M62 corridor on the developments around there, that should be in there. The housing sites that we're actually developing, that should be in there, Madam Mayor. Tackling fuel poverty and the work that Andrew does around the green economy panel, that should be in there. And we've actually recently put in 3 bids to the Housing Infrastructure Fund, totaling 44 million. £22 million of that is for the Dewsbury Riverside development, which actually then kickstarts the gateway to actually develop the 4,000 homes we've actually got in our local plan. That should be in there, Madam Mayor. So Andrew makes a valid point. If I had a wand, I would try and do something right, yeah, that magically actually puts our name in there. But together, if we actually continue to actually have proper debates in here, debates that actually inform everyone, yeah, and then actually collectively move forward, I'm sure we'll actually not just get a name, we'll actually get some things that are bigger, that actually benefit the whole of our communities, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pandor. Councillor Cooper, question to Councillor Carr.
You don't need a wand, you just need to read the draft report before it goes out. The question, will you review your decision not to allow permit parking for residents in Lockwood?
Councillor Khan.
Madam Mayor, Councillor Cooper, point of clarification, I did not make a decision not to allow permit parking for residents in Lockwood. As you are aware, a number of schemes are due to be implemented in the area. A decision was taken at Cabinet Committee Local Issue on the 20th of September 2017 to reassess the impact of these schemes once they are in place.
Thank you. Supplementary, Councillor Cooper.
Aware of the decision, and what was actually said was that you would review the decision once the double yellow lines had been placed on the main road, because, as was thought, that will displace more traffic into Lockwood. That is exactly what's happened. Will you now, I ask you again, will you now review the decision? Because we've got more traffic in Lockwood as a result, completely predictably, as a result of those double yellow lines going down the main road towards Long Road Bridge.
Councillor Khan.
As I understand, all the works and all the schemes is not completed as of yet. And like I said earlier, we will conduct an assessment of the impact. We can't at this stage preempt.
Question by Councillor Andrew Cooper to Cabinet Member for Economy, Naheed May.
Since our last full council meeting, what action have you taken to ensure the council's policy on flying lanterns is properly promoted?
Councillor Mather.
Since the last meeting, Councillor Cooper, I spoke with the officers and the service ensures me, and I think I made this clear, that when bookings are being made for special events at Castle Hill, the factor about lanterns and balloons is made clear to them. And I mentioned in our December meeting that the council is looking to bring a public protection order to ban the release of both Chinese lanterns and the flying of balloons on all council-controlled spaces. There will also be a ban on the release of fireworks at Castle Hill.
Thank you. Supplementary, Councillor Cooper.
As the Cabinet members are aware, this policy was passed, the motion was passed 2 years ago. You are looking at installing a public protection order. People don't all make bookings when they go up to Castle Hill. You don't make a booking. You turn up with your flying lantern and you set it off. There is no promotion. There's no information. There's not even a sign, a simple sign, saying you cannot release Chinese lanterns up here. It is against council policy. No information, nothing. People have got to apply. Why should people have to apply for a special event to be able to find out about the policy? Surely the policy should be actively promoted by the council. Otherwise, people don't know about it. Do you agree?
Mather.
I am aware of our policies and I do to some extent agree, and you do know that the massive amount of change is that the service is undergoing, and I am assured, I have been assured that all of these, all of this will be noted and on our website, and appropriate signage will go up.
Right. Councillor Cooper, Cabinet Member for Economy, Councillor Naheed Mather.
A number of councils have introduced policies to end the use of single-use plastic. Is this a policy the administration would support?
Councillor Mather.
Councillor Cooper, I did make you aware, I think I said in council, how I'm an avid supporter of recycling and management of waste. It's tragic that our waste is contaminating our environment. Yes, I think it is something that the Cabinet can consider, and the Council will use its influence to promote the issue. We are awaiting for government guidance to make further policy changes, and we continue to implement a small number of projects focused on waste minimisation and recycling. The Council could look at introducing conditions as part of licensing that single-use plastics are not used. Our environmental health officers could offer advice to business as part of their food safety visits. Those are the things that we are looking into at the moment.
Supplementary, Councillor Cooper.
Looking into. Okay. I've heard your response, and we're awaiting advice from government. Now, I'm quite aware that government says that it's going to sort this out in 25 years. So I wouldn't wait for the government. I think that there are certainly other councils that are doing things now. Why not Kirklees? Why is Kirklees a council which waits for others to provide it with advice before it does things? I think we should be providing leadership on this. I mean, a simple thing, we have plastic cups out here for water. We brought in water bottles today for that. So there are, and even Councillor McGuinn's brought in a water bottle. So we can show leadership. I think one of the things about leadership in this council is actually walking the walk. We don't have to wait. We don't have to wait for others to tell us what to do. Please show leadership. I would put a motion to this council on single-use plastic, but whether we get debated or not, I don't know. But I'm more than happy to work with the administration on actually getting something passed on that. But thank you. I'm glad that it's been noted.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Councillor Mahee.
Councillor Cooper, you misconstrued what I said. There are initiatives. We're looking. It is something that the Cabinet is interested in looking into. Whilst waiting for government guidance, which is going to come out later this year, the Council is looking towards the private sector and investigating a range of partnerships, working with a number of other agencies to bring about and limit the waste that we are producing at the moment. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Mather. Councillor Andrew Pinnock, Member for the Economic, Councillor Peter McBride.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The sharp-eyed amongst you will notice that this question was originally directed to the Deputy Leader of the Council, but I will slightly rephrase what it says. What is the importance of the upgrade of the Transpennine Railway route, either for Kirklees or more generally for the West Yorkshire region?
Councillor McBride.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's impossible to exaggerate the significance of Transpennine, both to the northern, the whole of the north, the northern region. This is the main arterial rail link which links the Mersey to the Humber, to the Tyne, to the Tees and so on. It's the main link between the most important cities in the north of England, particularly Leeds and Manchester. And for Kirklees, it's the raison d'etre for Huddersfield and Dewsbury in the first place. Without those links, this town and Dewsbury would not exist, not as the kind of place it is today. And the future of this town and the future of Dewsbury depends on decisions relating to its future. Thus, when the Secretary of State, having promised verbally to me that he wasn't going to go back on his policy to electrify the Transpennine, decides yet again to pause the decision, it has huge implications, and it's particularly galling to learn that at the same time as he is announcing a further £31 billion investment in Crossrail, having already invested £15 billion in Crossrail 1, and in addition to all the other investments in London, such that investment in the north of England, in the Yorkshire region and the northwest is about 1/12 of that investment in London, and about a third of that in the southeast of England. So what we'd ask the government to do is to reconsider yet again its commitment to Transpennine and to invest, rather than making bland statement about its commitment to the northern powerhouse, you know, this rhetoric which is meaningless and has no commitment behind it.
Thank you, Councillor McBride. Do you have a supplement?
Thank you for that answer, Councillor McBride. Leaving aside the eye-watering amounts of money being put into transport in the south east,
let's concentrate on the meagre amounts that we get in the north. And would you not agree with me that there are too many mixed messages being spread about in terms of HS3 and Northern Powerhouse, which would almost certainly bypass Huddersfield, and therefore making the Transpennine upgrade even more important?
Councillor McBride.
So, this statement we saw yesterday has no meaning, as you may have seen on television, John Prescott walking out in disgust because there's no commitment of any kind of resource. What we should be asking from the Northern Powerhouse, if such exists, and Transport for the North, is a commitment to Transpennine, a commitment to upgrade the M62, and later on to cover the Caldervale line, thus covering all of the people within the West Yorkshire area, as opposed to individual things which might affect a part of Bradford, which we saw yesterday. Now, what we want is all of the areas of West Yorkshire to be effectively linked, going across the Pennines, and to get the benefits which will be forthcoming from an economic point of view.
Councillor McBride. Question by Councillor Calvert for Councillor Viv Kendrick.
Could Councillor Kendrick remind Council when the Child Sexual Exploitation Multi-Party Panel was first set up and when was its first meeting?
Councillor Kendrick.
I can indeed, Councillor Calvert. The panel was established by this council in November 2014, following the CSE issues that were identified in Rotherham. The first meeting of that panel was therefore held on the 12th of December 2014. I have a copy of the minutes here, and in fact, you were the chair of that committee.
Do you have...
First meeting in December 2014, the panel members all agreed to produce their CRB DBS checks, and that was done. A recommendation was also made that all councillors of this council should also provide their CRB DBS checks. Eleanor Brazil also made the same recommendation. Can you tell me, please, why 3 years later this has not happened?
Councillor Kendrick.
I probably can't directly, apart from I am aware that I think within parties in this chamber this has been discussed, and I think I may be accusing people wrongly or identifying it wrongly, but I do think some parties or groups in this chamber did not feel that they wished to do that.
Thank you, Councillor Kendrick. Question 7. Councillor Bill Amos, a Cabinet Member for Adults and Public Health. Cathy Scott.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Certain residents of Bedford Avenue, Grange Moor, were offered an option of purchasing A, the land between their houses in Bedford Avenue, or B, an easement to allow their passage over this land. What are the all-in costs, legal admin fees, plus the cost of the land or of the easement of each of these options?
Councillor Scott.
Yes, thank you for the question, Councillor Almer. And just to put it in context, the members of the Chambers are aware, these are houses that were bought in between 1980 and 2001 under the right to buy, and it was under there was a problem. There appears you seem to have come across a problem, you say, in the conveyancing where people don't understand the rules around this or what was agreed. So, whilst some options have been suggested, I think you'll agree with me on this, that this is something not to be made public. It's between the owners of the property. I am not a litigator for the council. No councillor is. It's about the officers, the legal officers undertaking this, and we would, if we make a decision or say anything in council tonight, it could jeopardise their rights, because they could, if we decided to go forward and name things, you could lose and make them surrender their existing rights that they have now. So I'm not prepared to talk on that. If you want to meet with me after, we'll set up a meeting. I'm happy to discuss things through with you, but there'll be planning consent required. This land is allowed access by foot, not by vehicle, and they're actually parking their vehicles on it. So we've got existing use at the moment. I'm happy to leave it where it is and have a private meeting with you, but I'm not going to talk about costs. I'm not a solicitor, and that's where we're at.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Do you have a supplement, Councillor Aymer?
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor. This is a genuine question seeking information on behalf of the residents. Will you undertake to contact the residents individually to give them that information at the very earliest opportunity, please?
Councillor Scott.
Yes, I will, Councillor Armour, and I'd hope you'd be present. I did write to you in December and outline some things. The offer was there. You never come back. So I'll meet you after.
Councillor Aymer.
To the Cabinet Member.
No.
I can't.
Why?
On the way forward, it wasn't a conversation between the Cabinet Member and myself. I act on behalf of my residents. Therefore, they responded. That was the response. That is the clarification. Thank you.
Thank you for the explanation. Now, Councillor Aymer, your next question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
To Cathy Scott.
Madam Mayor, first of all, on reflection, I'm a little bit worried about the way I've worded this question because I have identified certain properties. Could we alter that to, say, certain properties in Grangemoor? Yeah, as it may. The other point is that there's actually a typo crept into it. At the end of the first paragraph, it should actually say offered toward county laws in the plural, because that is what the quotation in the exam.
Councillor Armour, would you read out the question?
Go on, I will do. In relation to 2530 Bedford Avenue, Grangemoor, it was reported in the Huddersfield Examiner that the option to consider alternative sources of funding was offered toward county laws, is what it said. What alternative sources of funding were identified, and to which councillors was the offer made?
Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Councillor Armour. Okay, the wording was actually, a question was raised as to whether there might be other alternative sources of funding available to you in your ward, and the response was you could looking towards your ward budgets that you might have to contribute something towards it, your own ward budgets, like every other councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. It's unfortunate that the examiner was misinformed. Ward council laws were not asked about it.
Question?
Can I refer you back to your email on September the 20th, 2017 at 14:52? You asked that question and you were responded to. Okay.
Right. Can we move on now then? Question by Councillor Watson to Cabinet Member for Children's Services.
Order in relation to paragraph 12 of Council Procedure Rules approved by Council on the 24th of May 2017. I think there has been, probably with the best intentions, I'm not suggesting there's anything wrong here, but the question that I put in has actually been changed. Paragraph 12 of the Procedure Rules provide that any member of the Council may put a written question to the Leader of the Council. And that's what I've done, but the papers that have been put out to the Council actually state that the question was put to Councillor Kendrick. That's not actually what I did. This issue for me is of such importance that, as far as I'm concerned, it goes right to the top. The book stops at the top, and therefore the question has to be answered or asked. The question has to be asked of the leader, because this is such an important issue. Sorry, just let me finish the point. So, the procedure rules say that any member can put a question in to the leader, as I've done, and what it says is actually that the leader, or whoever has asked the question, shall respond. And they shall either respond with an oral answer, or they may nominate somebody else to answer. Now, it's quite perfectly acceptable for the leader, or the deputy leader in their place, to nominate Councillor Kendrick to answer. That's absolutely fine. But my point is that the question still goes to the leader. And therefore, I am going to put the question to the leader, because for as far as I'm concerned, that is the proper procedure. The leader today, for the purpose of this meeting, is Councillor Pandor. If the leader then chooses not to step up to the plate and take on the responsibility for answering such an important question, they can validly ask somebody else to answer it. But the point is, the question should be put to the person that I want to put it to. So the point of order is, the notes that came out of the meeting, I can see why they might have been changed, and I'm not levelling any criticism at any individual officer for doing that, but they should have said that the question was for the leader. Now, unless anybody has an issue with that, I'm going to put my question...
Can I ask you to clarify? Can I ask Richard to clarify?
Of course.
Council Procedure Rule 12.5 states that the person to whom the question's put may either before or during the meeting ask another member to answer the question on their behalf. Now, what we've done, just for clarity, so that people understand that decision's been taken, and we've put the councillor's name down and we'll be responding to the question. So that's the reason for the way that it's been done for this evening's meeting.
Thank you very much. That's exactly what I thought happened, and that's absolutely right. I don't have a problem with that. But the point that I wish to be absolutely clear is that my question is not to Councillor Kendrick. It is to the Leader of the Council, in this case Councillor Pandor. If they choose not to answer the question and want to delegate it, that's absolutely fine. But my question on this important issue is to the Leader of the Council, which role is filled by Councillor Pandor tonight. The letter written on the 8th of December 2017 by Rachel Holden, the Ofsted Inspector, following the monitoring visit of Kirklees Children's Services, reports as follows. The focus of this visit was agreed with the Director of Children's Services 6 weeks prior to fieldwork as an area in which it was hoped that progress could be demonstrated, as plans were already being actioned in the multi-agency safeguarding hub, which was identified as ineffective in the inspection in 2016. However, the action taken during this time has not led to the improvements anticipated, and children are being left in situations of unacceptable and unassessed risk. The pace of change in Kirklees is too slow, and widespread and serious failures remain in the first response to children in need of help and protection. Inspectors identified a deterioration in the management of risk to vulnerable children and the quality of decision-making and assessment. Does the Leader accept that the inspector's identification of a deterioration in the management of risk to vulnerable children indicates that matters are getting worse rather than better so far as our children's services are concerned, with the consequence that the children are more at risk now than they were at the time of the original damning Ofsted report in November 2016?
So I'm going, Councillor Kendrick, can you reply to this, and then I'm going to close. We've gone 30 minutes, so I'm going to move on after your reply. Councillor Kendrick, reply to this.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The outcome of the monitoring visit was disappointing. However, it would be incorrect to say that children are more at risk now than they were at the time of the Ofsted inspection in 2016, and I hope members in this chamber note that. It would be incorrect to say that. The monitoring visit took place over 2 days and therefore did not consider some of the wider strategic developments that have taken place to deal with the long-standing issues in the multi-agency safeguarding hub, and I'm now going to call it MASH from now on because it's a mouthful. And I'll explain that a little bit more. The local authority and partners, not just the local authority, commissioned Professor David Thorpe to review the arrangements in the MASH, and as a review of that, radical changes were made and a new duty and advice service was established. However, these arrangements have been in place less than 3 weeks before the inspection came and had not had the opportunity to impact fully on practice. Feedback from partner agencies on the new service through the Children's Safeguarding Board and the Improvement Board, which are 2 key boards, have been very positive. Members of staff report that they are clearer and more confident as a result of the changes. And furthermore, I'd like to add, at the time of the monitoring visit, an additional 24 social workers have been appointed. Since then, we've appointed a further 8. The number of agency staff, which has been a key anxiety for all of us, has reduced by 47 since January last year. All good and essential steps in the right direction. A stable and confident workforce in children's services is essential if we're going to make the progress we need to make to ensure that all children and young people in Kirklees enjoy good outcomes. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the staff across children's services for all that they do to support our children and families in Kirklees. And I will just reiterate again, it would be incorrect to say that children are more at risk now than they were at the time of the Ofsted visit in 2016.
Thank you, Councillor Kendrick. Councillor Firth, did you want to say something?
Yes, can I move suspension of standing orders, Madam Mayor?
Who's going to second that? Councillor Turner.
Can you ask we'll come back to it in a minute. Can you ask Richard to turn on now, please?
Will you clarify, Richard, what we're voting on?
Just for clarity, councillors are voting on the suspension of Council Procedural 12.7, which is the time limit on written questions. So vote for if you want to suspend that procedure rule.
Would you all move to your consoles and vote, please? I think that's carried.
So move back to the supplementary for Councillor Watson.
Now we'll move back to the supplementary for Councillor Watt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And if I may start by saying thank you to Councillor Kendrick for stepping up to the plate in circumstances where you're new to the portfolio and to take on this question. I would have preferred to hear from the top. But could I just answer the question? Because I think I couldn't quite hear what you said at the end there. So can I just say that the question was, does the leader accept that the inspector's identification of a deterioration in the management of risks to vulnerable children indicates that matters are getting worse rather than better? And I think you did answer that, but I couldn't quite hear the answer.
Councillor Kendrick.
What I said was, I feel it is incorrect to say that children are more at risk now than they were at the time of the Ofsted inspection in 2016. And I understand your question, and I understand your concerns. And I am new to this portfolio, but I have been doing a phenomenal amount of reading and research. And this morning, in contacting Eleanor Brazil, the Commissioner, I asked her for a comment. And her comment is, as I quote, "As the Commissioner and Chair of the Improvement Board, I have seen evidence of some improvements in children's social care in recent months. However, I accept that this was not the case in the part of the service that Ofsted focused on during the 2 days, and the recent changes to that service had not yet had an impact. The Improvement Board will be looking for evidence of real progress at the front door at its next meeting. I am confident that the steps the senior leadership are taking are the right ones, but that progress is slower than we would like. And the only thing I would add to that, and it's nothing as eloquent as Eleanor Brazil's comment, is that there's a 10-point plan to improve children's services in Kirklees, which is about this wide. That MASH bit is about this wide. And whilst efforts have been focused on improving it, and I'm confident about the improvements made, you can't put all the effort into that without letting the rest of it deteriorate. So I'm happy and confident at the moment that things are right.
Thank you, Councillor Kendrick. So, Councillor Watson, your question now is to Councillor McBride.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. In the Huddersfield Examiner from 2013, Councillor McBride, you were quoted as saying, "I am delighted to announce that this year's parking concessions to tempt Christmas shoppers to spend more time in local town centres during the festive season. We have provided this in previous years, and it is appreciated by both shoppers and town centre businesses alike, and will help to provide a boost to the local economy." Were parking concessions put in place this year for the same reasons? And if so, do we know if they achieved the aim?
Councillor McBride.
The answer to the first question is yes. The same measures were put in place. We made concessions in Dewsbury and market days, concessions on the key Saturdays in Huddersfield, or further concessions made in Huddersfield, and hopefully the objectives were achieved. I suspect that overall retail in the major towns was down, notwithstanding anything that we did, because overall, nationally, there was a significant drop in all retail outlets nationally, and reflected in every town up and down the country.
Thank you, Councillor McBride. Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Watson?
I do, thank you, Madam Mayor. Is it possible that we might find some way of objectively assessing whether this does actually provide the boost that we hope for? Because it seems to me that if free parking does provide that boost over these short periods of time, it might be prudent to try and consider whether we ought to introduce it at other times to support the town centres.
Councillor McBride.
It was a one-off gesture to encourage what the shopping in a key Christmas period. But there's a continuous myth that parking charges are critical to the development of towns. That blatantly is not true, substantiated by significant research up and down the country, reflected in the fact that, for example, you go and try and park in Manchester or in Leeds and see what they charge you. Does that impact negatively on them? The answer is no. What we need to have is a parking charge which reflect the size and significance of towns. We're always looking for a balance. De facto, there has been no increase in parking charges for 10 years, which means there's been, in real terms, a significant drop in terms of what people have been charged in that period. I'm not at all convinced that this is a key factor in development. What I am convinced is a key factor is encouraging more footfall in the centre by virtue of investments that we might make, which we have done in the past and we intend to do in the future, and encouraging people to live in the centre of the town, and we have been extremely effective in that respect. We've nearly doubled the number of people who are living in the centre of town, centre of Huddersfield and Dewsbury, in the last 5 to 10 years. So these are some of the things, and they're not the total answer. There is a general drop in retail across the country, and that's reflected because, well, a consequence of trading online.
Thank you. Councillor Michael Watson, to Cabinet Member for the Economy, Councillor Naheed Mehta.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. In relation to glass recycling sites in the area, A, which ward has the most and how many? B, which ward has the fewest and how many? And C, what's the average number per ward, please?
Councillor Mehta.
Councillor Watson, Kirkburton ward has the most community recycling sites for glass, and it has 11 sites. Goldcar ward has the fewest sites and has 1 community recycling site. The average number of sites per ward About what? 5. 5.
You have a supplementary, Councillor Watts? No? Leader of the Council, Councillor Shabir Pandor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Has Councillor Pandor read the Deloitte's report into council saving?
Councillor Pandor.
Yes, I have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Hall?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is getting to the point where I'm beginning to think that this report is in fact fictional, because I haven't ever seen it and I haven't been told what's in it, and you're the first person that's admitted you've read it. Has Cabinet actually read it too? How much of it did you decide to adopt? And was that a Cabinet decision or an officer decision?
Councillor Pandor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I haven't asked my Cabinet colleagues if they have read it, so I can't answer that question. There you are. You've got 2 already. In terms of what's in it, what isn't in it, the report actually identified a whole host of things, what we can do in this council chamber, Madam Mayor. What we did was basically match that with what our vision is and what our values are, what the budget is. Having said that, Madam Mayor, a lot of the stuff that Deloitte's identified initially, we actually already doing, so we actually put that on one side. Then there was another element where we identified £26 million worth of savings, and out of that £26 million worth of savings in year, Deloitte are delivering 2.84, so about £3 million. The rest is being delivered by the council's own transformation team. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Councillor Hall, to the Deputy Leader, Councillor Pandor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Is Councillor Pandor happy with this year's budget process?
Councillor Pandor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Councillor David Hall for the question. And I think it's a really important question, especially with what we're actually doing at the moment, i.e. budget setting process. The announcement was made on 19th of December, just before Christmas. And our officers have actually worked really, really hard. All the political parties, straight after Christmas, got together and within a matter of weeks actually tried to get their head around what the officers prepared. So from that point of view, I actually applaud our officers who actually worked really hard over Christmas and New Year to actually get all the stuff for the leaders who could then actually go and cascade that down to their groups. I know that the time scales are very tight, but that's not something in my control. From an internal councillors, leaders' point of view, I think we've done an exceptionally good job, and I actually think that the process has been actually focused on from that point of view. However, Madam Mayor, it's really, really appalling that such an important budget announcement comes a few days before Christmas, and then we've got to then run around after Christmas, New Year, to make sure that we actually meet the timescales. Because at the same time, we've got to get all the Treasury Management reports, all the Council Tax Base reports, and if we don't set the budget by the 14th of February, then we can't set the Council Tax, and then that has an implication on our communities and our residents. And if we're here to actually do a job that actually does some justice to our communities, then I think that we should all sort of try and ask central government in whatever form we can to actually give us more time so that we can actually understand it, take it back to our groups, talk about it, see what areas of consensus we have. So from that point of view, I think that the process was flawed, to be honest with you. But from a council point of view, our officers who have worked the socks off, the leaders of all parties have actually been working really, really hard, and I'd like to thank them for their time and effort that they put in, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pandor. Do you have a supplement?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a certain sympathy with Councillor Pandor. Can you understand, though, our feelings of the process getting more and more truncated year by year? given that the process used to start on an all-party basis in September, not many years ago, this year it started in December. We didn't get any budget books until January. The Cabinet is still to release its proposals. They won't agree those proposals until the end of January, and we'll have all of 3 days for opposition parties to get in any possible amendments. Now, would he say that this is conducive to good decision-making on budgets? He says it's not in his control. I would say it is in the administration's control to run a budget process. Will he pledge to run a better one next year, please?
Councillor Pandor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I completely understand where David Hall is coming from, but I have got to repeat and reiterate what I said earlier on. To get a budget settlement a few days before Christmas, then expect our officers to actually work just before Christmas through the new year, and then actually try and get some information for all of us, because we already got the stuff as well in the new year. Yeah? That is something I've got no control over, Madam Mayor. If I had control over stuff, I would actually have done it a long time before, but that is something that the government does through the DCLG, and that is a process that actually we have to follow.
Thank you, Councillor Panda. Question back.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Kirklees Help and Support Services provide essential support for rape victims. How long do victims have to wait for full counselling support?
Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Councillor Light. I assume you're talking about Kirklees Rape and Sexual Abuse Counselling Centre. This centre provides invaluable support, and as do other services that are provided by the NHS and other organisations. Victims of rape and sexual abuse will clearly want to be in control of the support and the counselling that they receive. I would absolutely recognise that it's important that we support them in a timely manner when it's available to these individuals and when they're ready. I have been in contact with CRASAC. We are waiting for them to come back to us with that. So if you're happy, I'll put that in writing to you, Councillor Light, because nobody's responded back. But I will let you know that this is the responsibility of the NHS. They're responsible for commissioning this. And they commission the sexual assault services. But as a council, I do think it's something that we need to get to grips on and find out. So I'll come back to you as soon as possible. But that's where I'm at with that.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Light?
Can I thank the Cabinet member for her interest and action to take this up further and her support. You will appreciate from the victim's position, it's got Kirklees in the title, so it thinks it's the council. I hope she will have the concern that I have, that presently, if you're a rape victim and you ask for counselling support, you don't get to see a counsellor for 6 months. I'm sure you will agree that is a really horrific position. Because of the direct decisions that have been made by the commissioning body, and I hope we have some influence on that, in May this year that will change from 6 months to 11 months. I hope the Cabinet member will agree with me that that is an unacceptable situation, and that we as a council, as a democratic body, should use our influence to try and ensure that that timescale is significantly reduced.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Scott.
I absolutely agree, Councillor Light. That's not acceptable, the waiting period. However, as I said, it's commissioned by the NHS, but it doesn't stop us as councillors in this chamber lobbying for more funding, which is being cut in a lot of the services, and these small, really important services are being lost along the way. So I do take your point. I will come back to you with it, and if you want to work together on that, I'd be more than happy to, and any other in this chamber.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Robert Light, the Cabinet Member for Children's Services. Councillor Viv.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This December, the Council received its third monitoring report since Ofsted first judged Kirklees Children's Services as inadequate in 2016. 2 years on, Ofsted still judged Kirklees Children's Services as inadequate. Given that all the opposition groups in this council lent their support to the Children's Services Plan, will the Cabinet member please inform this council when we will see quantifiable improvement in our children's services?
Councillor Kendrick.
I'm grateful for the member's question and for the support that all members have given to the improvement plan. Cross-party support remains essential if we're to ensure the delivery of high-quality services to children and young people in Kirklees. I'm pleased to report that although the monitoring visit, which had a narrow focus, was disappointing, we are already seeing quantifiable improvement in children's services. And as I've already said in a previous answer to a previous question, with the support of partners, a new duty and advice service has been established to replace the MASH, and feedback from partner agencies on the new arrangements has been positive, and staff report they're more confident. But in addition, all strategy meetings on new cases are now taking place at the front door. Police have provided an extra sergeant to help take that forward, and there is increased health representation, which I think is really important. We have a new career structure and career development programme in place, and as a result, since July, I think I've already said, we appointed 24 social workers, but also 6 independent reviewing officers and 1 team manager. I think for me a really important point is social work caseloads have fallen, and the average caseload is now below 20, which can only be welcome news. The number of looked after children has decreased from over 700 in December 2016 to 648 in September 2017, and the rate of looked after children per 10,000 is below that of our statistical neighbours. This means we're supporting more children and young people to remain with their families and communities. Members will also be aware that Elaine McShane has been appointed permanently to the post of Service Director for Children's Social Work, and I very much welcome that, and I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome her formally to Kirklees. Having said all that, my concern is it is about pace, and I'm fully aware of that, and that I will be focusing on a great deal.
Thank you, Councillor Kendrick. Do you have a supplementary, Councillor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I welcome Councillor Kendrick's final comment, particularly about pace? I think it's that pace of improvement that concerns us all. No one, and you've evidenced that today, no one doubts there's been an immense activity across the service and a drive to try and improve things. The reasons why I use the words quantifiable improvement in the question were deliberate, because it's actually things that can be measured and be clear, we can be certain about. You mentioned in a previous question about it feels like it's getting better. I paraphrase slightly. I think what we want to see, and what this council needs, is evidence that actually that pace of improvement is starting to quicken, because there has been a lot of activity, but what we don't see is hard outcomes, and 2 years is a long time for us to be inadequate. And I think if you like, the time for substantial proven improvement is now, and we wish to see it in the future. I hope the Cabinet member will take those comments on board as a real encouragement to take that drive for pace in the future.
Councillor Kendrick.
Thank you. Yes, I absolutely agree. People do want to see quantifiable activity. Pace is essential. And I can only say, and I know I would echo what Councillor Erin Hill would say, that the cross-party support has been essential. I would hate members to become downhearted or disappointed or feel that we're not going to get there, because I feel that working together we can. 2 years on is a long time. I don't think for a moment anybody has said that it was going to be fixable within 2 years. I think we're talking about several years more. But I do take the last part of Eleanor Brazil's quote that she gave me, that she's confident that the steps the senior leadership are taking are the right ones, that progress is slower than we would like. And I would agree with that, and I will be looking to see how we can work together to improve that pace.
Thank you, Councillor Kendrick. Question by Councillor Light to the Deputy Leader of the Council, Councillor Shabir Pandor.
The Deputy Leader, the system right eventually. Will the Deputy Leader outline his priorities for next year's budget, Council budget and the medium-term financial plan?
Councillor Pandor.
For the question, the priorities for this Council administration is looking after the most vulnerable people, achieving outcomes for our children and our young people and adults, developing our economy and making sure that our communities are safe. We will be publishing our budget next week, and the detail will be in there, and the medium-term financial plan will be in there. But in the meantime, we are still talking, and I hope that we can actually get a budget in this council that everybody agrees to, right? Yeah, and at least then we can start addressing the issue that we are so concerned about. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pandor. Do you have a supplementary?
Thank you for telling us what your priorities were, Councillor Pandor. Will you tell us what your non-priorities are?
Councillor Pandor.
Like I said, Madam Mayor, our papers will be published next week. I don't let the cat out of the bag, because if I do, yeah, then that won't be a surprise, will it, Madam Mayor?
Thank you, Councillor Pandor. Question by Councillor Light to the Cabinet Member for the Economy, Councillor Peter McBride.
Madam Mayor, under Council Procedure Rule 12, which my colleague referred to earlier, it would seem that the intended person for this question has been changed. I would argue that it can't be changed from the intended person, which was the Deputy Leader, because as you'll see in the first line of the question, it does refer to asking for the views of the Deputy Leader. Now, I'm not sure Councillor McBride has been promoted into that post. And it does actually, an important member of the investment panel, which Councillor Pandor explained to us, to his role in that investment panel, to a question from my good friend Councillor Cooper earlier. So I would say that it is impossible for anybody else other than the Deputy Leader to ask this question. As much as it would be interesting to hear what Councillor McBride's views of what Councillor Pandor thinks of this question will be.
Councillor Pandor.
There are two investment panels. One is the investment panel, which is for the Leeds City region, which Councillor McBride sits on, which the question refers to, and I'm on the investment panel for business. Thank you, Madam.
So, Councillor McBride.
I'll try and answer the question. Yeah, come on. The bloody question, come on.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was a valid point of order, but it seems to be lost somewhere. The question is, Ed, just in case you don't know what it is, as an important member of the West Yorkshire Combined Authority Investment Panel, and the Deputy Leader will be aware that the economies of Leeds, Wakefield and Bradford are now showing significant growth, and that is also clear in the retail sector, open brackets, even in Bradford, for those who remember the hole in Bradford. Yet, in Kirklees, our economy is not thriving to the same extent, and our retail sector in our town centres are in significant decline. Why is Kirklees different?
Councillor McBride.
as an unimportant member of the Investment Committee, our sole member of the... I'm very unimportant. However, the point you make in your question, the point you make predicated on, are simply untrue. We have no such evidence from the Investment Committee. In fact, I've got some separate evidence, which is the Office of National Statistics, which does say, and this is December 17, that Kirklees has grown by 2.4% over the last year, that Wakefield has grown by 1.8%, and Leeds have grown by 1.2%. Some further evidence, Cathy pointed this out to me only the other day, that reminded me that the latest figures about housing values, Huddersfield was in the top 10, and Bradford and I think Leeds were in the bottom 10 in terms of increase in value. Not that that absolutely proves anything. It is just indicative of things are improving here. It does not prove anything. I think what the message for this is, though, why do you continuously talk down Kirklees and talk down this town and Dewsbury? I think you should learn a lesson from this. I think also with regard to retail, I've already answered this, there's been a general decline in retail, and there is no evidence whatsoever that that decline is more so in Huddersfield than it is in any other part of West Yorkshire. It's a phenomena that we're all feeling.
Thank you, Councillor McBride. Supplementary, Councillor Lyne.
So, if I can summarise Councillor McBride's answer, I'll put a few different statistics to justify my position, and then I'll say it's not our fault. Well, can I remind Councillor McBride that 10 years ago, Kirklees had the second largest economy in West Yorkshire, bigger than Bradford, bigger than Wakefield. Our retail economy was better than Bradford and Wakefield. The retail economy of Huddersfield was bigger than Bradford and Wakefield. And those were statistics from 2007. But that's when we had a council that was driven by improving the borough of Kirklees and improving Huddersfield. Not this council that doesn't push its weight in the combined authority and can't even get a name in the investment bag, as Councillor Cooper referred to earlier. Isn't it time that we had more dynamic leadership that pushed Kirklees to the front and make sure that people realise that our economy is something to be taken account of, and actually we can deliver better than Bradford, better than Wakefield, and actually be a powerhouse in West Yorkshire like we used to be when we had a Conservative administration?
Councillor McBride.
Well, as usual, Councillor doesn't listen to the answer that he was given. I told you, I gave you the evidence. You give us some vague statistics about 2007 when there happened to be a Tory administration. I did point out that the evidence I give you, or any limited amount of evidence like this, is not absolutely confirmable. What we do know broadly over a period of time, over a 10-year period, is that the West Yorkshire authorities are not doing particularly well, and they're doing significantly worse than authorities in the south of England. Pardon? As far as investment is concerned, by the combined authority, the priority that it gives to it, the combined authorities invested huge sums of money in Dewsbury, in the education village. Additionally, currently, we're about to spend 129 million on the A629, and that is going to start this year. In fact, the further questions coming about land acquisitions relating to that. This is just some part of a massive investment that's going to be over £250 million from the combined authority in Kirklees, but it's over a period of time. So the evidence on which you base your presumptions are inadequate and not true.
Thank you, Councillor McBride. Question by Councillor Gemma Wilson for the Cabinet Member for the Economy, Councillor McBride.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Do you think the letters that have gone out to residents in the Birchcliff and Edgerton area regarding compulsory purchase have been thought through properly? In my view, they are heavy-handed, have scared residents for whom many of this has come out of the blue, and the language and tone is very distressing and has left some of the residents that I represent and some Greenhead residents who've contacted me distressed and worried about their home, any effects on the value of their homes, and whether the compensation will take this into account and be adequate to fully recompense these residents?
Councillor McBride.
I think the letters that were sent out were appropriate, proportionate, and they did respond to the people who were directly affected. In fact, 19 people in total, most of whom were only partly affected by it. There's one residence which will be totally affected by it in terms of the compulsory purchase. However, the tone of something which tells you we are going to have to acquire your land in one form or another, we're going to try and start by negotiating with you, inevitably is distressful. But when you do a major development like the A629, you've got to make major improvements, and that unfortunately does require the taking of a modest piece of land. Now, we regret the fact that it's necessary, but it is indeed necessary. I don't think the letters were in any way insulting. I think they were just the normal kind of letters that you would send out in such circumstances.
Thank you, Councillor McBride. Do you have a supplementary?
Residents have expressed suspicion that these alleged needed works are linked to the excessive house building in and around the Lindley area, which over the last few years has undoubtedly had a negative effect on local air quality and traffic. Can you confirm or deny that there would be any truth in residents' feelings about that, please?
Councillor McBride.
I think you can assure residents, as a result of the measures undertaken, the traffic will move more quickly and more effectively, and therefore the air quality will significantly improve.
Right. Question 19. Councillor Andrew Marchington to the Cabinet Member for Economy. Councillor Peter McBride.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Recent figures have shown that there are over 2,000 properties across Kirklees which have been empty for over 6 months or more, and there are 722 properties which have been empty for 2 years or more. However, the Council has declined to make use of empty dwelling management orders in the last 5 years, despite a rise in the number of homeless across the borough. Can the Cabinet Member advise what actions the Council is taking to bring empty homes back into use?
Councillor McBride.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The figure of 2,000 largely reflects the norm of lead time between moves, which can take anything up to 9 months. From the figures, 700 are clearly sticking for a variety of market and legal reasons, often relating to probate. The council intervention is to apply the £150% council tax, which discourages people doing this deliberately. Beyond this, we provide advice and assistance to encourage, where appropriate, renting and providing information regarding potential tenants. We are reluctant to apply empty dwelling orders because they're complex, they're expensive, and experience shows that they're not usually very effective.
Thank you, Councillor McBride. Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Marching?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Peter, for your response. Peter, you've obviously explored using empty dwelling management orders. Would you be willing to actually get a briefing to members of the council to actually look at some of the underlying some of the reasons why you don't think they're effective? I know in the past the council has looked at being more proactive about bringing some of the longer term empty properties back into use. It'd be interesting to know what some of the costing implications are, given that the council is exploring providing dwellings or bringing other dwellings being available for homeless people.
Councillor McBride.
I could get you some further information which I'll share with the other members of the council in terms of the details of why the officers guided me to say that the measures are, the orders would not be effective. I'm interested what the measures that we do to support and help people. A copy of this was given to me only tonight, and it reminds me of the kind of advice we were giving to people 5 or 6 years ago, when we had 3,000 empty homes, so that situation has significantly improved. But it indicates, and I think it's still on the website, saying the kind of assistance that we do give to people who are in this situation.
Thank you, Councillor McBride. By Councillor Nicola Turner for the Cabinet Member for Economy, Councillor Peter McBride.
This is another example where the question has been passed to somebody else, because it actually says the deputy leader to respond, and this question was directed. So I haven't actually finished what I'm saying. The reason this question was directed to Councillor Pandor was because the devolution deal is something that's been discussed amongst West Yorkshire leaders for quite a long time, and obviously it would have been directed to David Sheard had he been here, because it's their discussion. So that's why it was directed to Councillor Pandor. But anyway, if you can't answer it, Shabir, what do you think is the best devolution deal for Kirklees?
Councillor McBride.
I think it is appropriate I answer it, not because Shabir can't, it's because I've been involved much more than Shabir has been in the past. I've deputised very often for David Sheard, particularly over matters dealing with City deal. The best kind of deal we could have would be to have one at all, because you may have found out that we didn't get any allocation this time directly. So what kind of a deal we want? We want a deal which is adequately reflects the needs of our area, which will adequately deal with the transport needs, the housing needs and other needs. But also we want a deal which is not conditional upon us having a mayor in West Yorkshire, despite the fact that the people of West Yorkshire again and again have voted against having a mayor. We want a deal that would give us a responsive and accountable assembly. And we want a deal which is not dictated in terms of its geography by what suits the Conservative Party, because the West Yorkshire authorities have agreed with other authorities to come forward with various different combinations which the government has consistently turned down. So we've said we'd do a deal on the basis of Leeds City Region, an invention of the Conservative Party, on the basis of the West Yorkshire Combined Authority, on the basis of what of a wider Yorkshire. All of these have been turned down. In fact, we've been put on the naughty step because we have not agreed with what the Tory backbenchers have insisted on having. One which would ensure that there would be a Tory majority, whether it be a mayor or a proper assembly.
Thank you, Councillor Brad. You have a supplementary. No supplementary, so carry on to the Deputy Leader of the Council, Shabir Pat.
No, I think this is to Hilary Richards, actually. Other than to say, I think we need some pace on this devolution deal, because we need to do something. Anyway, so this question is, what actions has the Council taken to implement the recommendations of the fossil fuel divestment pension motion, which was passed at Council in October 2015?
Councillor Richard.
Thank you. The West Yorkshire Pension Fund investment team recognises climate change as a risk which requires very careful monitoring. The dominance of fossil fuels will reduce over time, but this may take decades, and in the meanwhile, the global economy will continue to use fossil fuels during the transition to lower carbon energy sources. As interest rates and bond yields are presently at extremely low levels, the dividend yield of the oil companies is an important source of income to the fund, income which is essential for meeting the obligations to pay pensioner members. Oil companies have been and remain amongst the highest yield stocks in the UK equity market. The fund views shareholder engagement as a much more positive and effective strategy for encouraging change than divestment, which would remove the ability to speak to the companies and exert influence over them.
Thank you, Councillor Richards. Do you have a supplementary, Councillor, sir?
Yes, thank you. First of all, could you email the answer to us, because that would be quite helpful. Second of all, the question actually is, what actions has this council taken to implement its own recommendations? And that answer, quite frankly, what you're basically saying is something can be really, really bad, but because it's paying us some money, we'll accept it. That's absolutely
outrageous. The reason that we can change things and why we're councillors and why we want to be involved in these things is so that we can make a difference. And if we think we're investing in something that is fundamentally not a good idea, just because it's making loads of money and that makes it okay, whoa! That's how we change the world, is by saying, actually, we're not going to invest in this going forward. So, you know, what has this council done? What have you done as our representative on that to actually change their point of view?
Councillor Richards.
Could I apologise for trying to keep a short enough answer for you to be able to be getting off by 9 o'clock? But the point is that the other half of this is that the fund is highly involved in alternative energy sources and is actually working very hard at that. You're talking from the low carbon technology of £120 million being invested and another 50 million being available. I will send you the whole of this answer and then it might make more sense to you.
I'm just going to thank you very much, Councillor Richards. I'm just going to take one because it's nearly 9 o'clock. So we'll speak to. So it's now Councillor Nicola Turner.
Point of order. I carefully noted down the proposition which Councillor Firth made. Councillor Firth said, I suspend standing orders. He didn't specify which one. Therefore, we extend until it's finished.
Get Richard to answer that, please.
I will ask Richard to clarify that.
Councillor, the context of the request was about extending the time for written questions. No, Councillor Firth moved suspension of council procedure rules. I then, when it went to the, I clarified that we were talking about council procedure rule 12.7, which is the procedure rule about extending, the procedure rule about limiting the time to questions for 30 minutes. So that's the procedure rule that's been suspended. All of the procedure rules are still in place.
Councillor Turner.
Can I just say, there are some really important questions on here. And I think, you know, the thought that we're going to have short answers because we all want to be out of here by 9 o'clock. What are we thinking or doing? Anyway, sorry, I'll ask my next question. This is to Councillor Pandor. What further support could this council give to the HRI campaigners?
Thank you. Councillor Shabir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Nicola. It's a very important question you ask, because this is something that's very dear to people's hearts in Huddersfield and further afield. Before I start, I think we need to acknowledge the hard work all the NHS staff have done, all the social care staff have done throughout the authority and in Halifax. There's no denying that there's massive pressure on the system as a whole. At the same time, we've got winter pressures, but we've had winter pressures for years and years and years. So they're actually sort of like, making it sound like this is suddenly something that's come out of the blue. Our staff have been working over Christmas, New Year, trying to actually meet that demand. I will get to the point, but I think it's important that we actually address the whole issue, and I don't want to be criticised to actually say that you've given me a short answer, so Nicola, please bear with me. We can't carry on the way we're doing, Madam Mayor, in terms of the health crisis that we face within the NHS. Nationally and locally, right, I think that breaking point, and there needs to be some fundamental changes that needs to be made so that we can actually start addressing the real issues, not just the funding crisis, Madam Mayor. Locally, councillors can do a lot, and they have been doing a lot. But it's up to individual councillors to use their discretion, and the sort of campaigns and the sort of lobbying they've been doing, right, it goes without saying, it's been excellent. We also, at the last meeting, Councillor Davis Sheard asked all councillors to sign an open letter to Jeremy Hunt, the Secretary of State, and I'm really pleased to say that, every single councillor actually signed that letter. except for the ones who are on the scrutiny panel for Calder and Huddersfield. As a councillor, we're very clear what we want. You know, we've had a debate in this council chamber many, many times. We know what our ambitions are for the health system, but the problem is that they're actually looking at issues in isolation. They're looking at acute trust, then they're looking at community, then look at GPs. You can't look at individual elements of the whole thing. You've got to look at it completely. The focus needs to be on prevention, which I'm sure we all agree with, integration of the system, and at the same time, invest in community services. Because that's where the investment is needed. By saving here, you can't start cutting here. You've got to actually invest in the whole thing. The changes that are proposed by Calderdale and Huddersfield Foundation Trust, we've debated them here, and they are not acceptable. And I think we've made our clear position very, very clear. We don't support the proposals that are there at the moment. We want to improve health outcomes for everybody, especially the people that are most vulnerable. We want to reduce that health inequality gap. But the only way to do that is to actually take a whole system approach, like I talked about earlier on. The challenge is big, but at the same time, if the NHS locally can't find a solution, then I think what we'll have to do is we'll have to actually start developing our own solution and lead the health system to actually where we want to be, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor, do you? Yeah.
Madam Mayor, can I invite Councillor Stern to support me in a proposal to suspend Council standing orders to Rule 15, 16 and paragraph 47. So
I'm sorry, you can't now. It's gone 9 o'clock. So you can have your supplementary for a minute.
I can have my supplementary, okay. Okay, so the actual question was how could we further support this? And one of the things that the group have been asking is whether the council can be a signatory or in some way support them in their judicial review. Is that something that we could consider?
Madam Mayor, members will have received a reply back from the Secretary of State, and in that letter it's made very, very clear that decisions have not been made. So until a decision is made, I think there's very little point in actually taking advice about judicial review. A review can only take place once a decision is made. That's the advice that we've been given. Sorry? Yeah, but once a decision is made, then we can look at it. At the moment, the legal advice is that, you know, we can't really actually consider everything.
Right, I'm just now going to close tonight's meeting. Thank you very much for your attendance.